All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you're new. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And thank you, as always, for waiting patiently for the intro to finish up there. Hope everybody's doing well today. Sage Infinite says, like button assaulted. Thank you, Sage. Thank you. Yeah, guys, make sure you hit that like button. We're sitting at 36 likes. It helps the stream. See if we can get that up to 50 likes as we let more people file in here. Aiden Delaney with a super chat says, Sony funded and supervised Yotei's development for 4 years, are developing spin-offs and a movie, but didn't know Yotei has a female lead? Nah. Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, Aiden. We're going to talk about this. So we have a few different topics that we're going to discuss today, but one of the first topics we're going to discuss has to do with Ghost of Yotei once again, because there is a new rumor going around that Sony is not happy with Ghost of Yotei because they didn't know, apparently. They didn't know that it wasn't Jin Sakai and that they have a new character. Yeah, that's the rumor. We're going to talk about that. We're not just going to talk about that, though. We also have a new report that apparently Xbox wants to find out. They want to know why developers prefer PlayStation. Very interesting. I mean, we'll cover that. We'll talk about what's going on there. We also have a new Unreal Engine 5 demo. I don't know how much I'm going to cover this, but I did see it kind of floating around yesterday. And let me see what else we got here. We have a couple of bonus topics as well that if we have time, we'll cover them. But yeah, again, I appreciate you guys being here. We're going to dive into these topics in just a moment. Again, I'm just kind of letting more people file in. I just want to thank everybody for watching the streams. I also want to give a shout out to anybody who can't catch the streams live, but you watch them later on. I do appreciate it. Like I said, make sure you hit that like button. A couple of ways you could support the channel. If you want to help support the content directly, we are completely fan funded. I couldn't do this if it wasn't for the generosity of our community here. Consider becoming a channel member. Consider gifting channel memberships. Consider donating a super chat, or consider donating a direct donation with a link at the top of the chat. You can still leave a message just like a super chat. But yeah, let's go over this new rumor regarding Sony not being happy with Ghost of Yotei. So I originally came across this on Twitter, where I actually saw, I think it was the individual Special Nick or Nick Baker. I know he's from the Xbox Era podcast. He quote tweeted this article that was written by that Park Place and basically said, like, yeah, this doesn't sound believable at all. And I was like, what is he talking about? So I clicked on it. And yeah, so the Park Place puts up this article, rumor, Sony executives not happy with initial Ghost of Yotei response. So if we look over at the article here, they say YouTuber Endymion shared this information from an alleged insider. He said, quote, apparently Ghost of Yotei blindsided many people that were working at Sony who were not made aware of what Sucker Punch was making. He adds, and that people in the mid-levels at Sony were actually confused when Yotei was announced because they were under the impression that Jin Sakai would be getting a sequel. He also says, and they are not happy at all when it comes to the response of that game either internally at Sony right now. End quote. Now, I went to look into this to see if there was any more that was brought to the table. This YouTuber, I don't follow this YouTuber. I've seen people bringing him up. He claims he has a source. He claims this is what the source is telling him. And he seems to have went on and said that he's going to be getting more information, apparently. So there's a couple problems here. Okay. If we look into this a little bit further, many people were blindsided. Ghost of Yotei apparently blindsided many people that are working at Sony. I mean, what does that even mean? Saying he just released another video? Is it about Ghost of Yotei? Because if there's more that's going to be, if there's more that's going to be added to this rumor, you're saying, why are we even talking about this? It's obviously a fake source. The reason why I want to talk about this is because I want people to be able to kind of see that this is what's beginning to happen, where there is such a crusade against some of this stuff that this is the lengths that people are willing to go to, where this rumor is very obviously complete and utter bullshit. Now, I want to highlight something. The rumor says that many people in the mid-levels at Sony, in the mid-levels, so not the lower levels, not the higher levels, the mid-levels, were actually confused when Yotei was announced because they were under the impression that Jin Sakai would be getting a sequel. So, who are the people at the mid-level? That's what I would like to know. Like, who exactly is at the mid-level here? Are we talking about just random developers at other studios that don't know what Sucker Punch has been working on? Are we talking about a developer at Sony Bend that probably has no idea what Sucker Punch has been doing for the last 5 years because that's not their job to know what they're doing? They were surprised because they thought, oh, I thought it was going to be a sequel with Jin Sakai. Gee, I wonder if that's what everybody else thought too. So you're telling me that mid-level employees at Sony, when Ghost of Yotei was officially announced, they were surprised to see, oh, they're not continuing with Jin. So in other words, the people at Sony who didn't know what Sucker Punch was working on were surprised to find that they're going in a different direction. You mean just like everybody else who didn't know what Sucker Punch was working on? Gotcha. That's a real scoop right there. But here's the important part, right? And they are not happy at all when it comes to the response of that game either. So internally, Sony is apparently not happy, or people at Sony are not happy that about the response that the game is getting. See, what does that even mean? Like, go look at what the response is that this game's getting. Like, go look at the comment section. Go look at what people are saying. Like, yeah, there's a loud group of people being obnoxious right now about it. But generally speaking, most people are excited about this game and liked what they saw. Exactly. The majority are very hyped about Ghost of Yotei. Mixed reception? No, that's not true. That's not real, dude. It's not mixed reception. There's a vocal minority, and they are a minority. You're going to see that in the sales. People, if people, I will say this. I think people's perception, like, oh, it's mixed. They believe it's mixed because people basically did digging on the actress who's playing the character. And there are people who are basically rallying up saying, well, I don't like this actress's, I don't like what she has to say on social media. I don't like her political stances. She's an activist, so I'm not buying the game. And believe me when I tell you, that will not be reflected in the final sales. This game's going to do just fine. And do you know why? Because 99% of people are not doing that. 99% of people don't give a flying fuck who this actress is and what her political beliefs are on Twitter. 99% of people are watching the trailer that and seeing the game that hundreds of developers made over the course of 5 years and say, that looks pretty damn good. That's what 99% of people are doing. But I guess if people want to believe it's mixed, they can believe it's mixed. But I can tell you right now, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to believe this rumor, and I frankly don't believe it because it makes no sense. It makes no sense that anybody at an important level at Sony would not know what this game is. It makes no sense that certain executives at Sony who greenlit this game, who funded this game, who, clearly have to pay very close attention to what Sucker Punch is doing. It makes zero sense that they would be blindsided by this, that they wouldn't know what's going on. It doesn't add up. Now, if you're talking about, again, mid-level people, whatever that means, I can only assume mid-level people, they have to be talking about, again, just kind of employees that work at Sony that have nothing to do with managing or overseeing studios and would be in the dark about what Sucker Punch was making. It's such a bizarre situation with this game, man. Let me tell you. Kareem Ali, you're saying, I don't believe Endymion. I watched his latest video now, just now for Yotei, and it makes zero sense. Oops. Let me see. Insider exposes Assassin's Creed Shadows and Ghost of Yotei, plus Jin Sakai erased. How can people be so stupid, man? And I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about, like, how can people not realize, like, you do know this guy's just trying to, like, squeeze as many views out of your annoyance as possible. Oh my God, dude. But you know what? That's the world we live in, bro. People are going to get their bag. If people are viewing, if people are tuning in, they're going to get the bag. I'm so curious to know, though, what this source had to say. It's a 24-minute video, though. His take on Shadows is not kind of lines up. I'll be honest, I haven't heard any. I haven't listened to anything that was said about Assassin's Creed Shadows, so I can't comment on that. I'm just speaking specifically to the Ghost of Yotei situation because it is bothersome to me, like, to just see so many people jumping, so many people who, like, I don't even know if they play video games or not, But just so many people jumping on this because the actress is she's a political activist on her Twitter account and in her real life. And you know what's so crazy to me is, like, I tried to say this yesterday, and I'm sorry for sounding like a broken record, but do you not realize how many other actors / actresses that have played roles in these video games that are like very similar, that have the very similar views, politically speaking? Yeah, like I think if people really knew how many of these actors and actresses probably agree with her takes, or at least share similar sentiment, I think you would have to walk away from like most video games. But I don't know, man. People are projecting their own bullshit. People are acting like when you play Ghost of Yotei, that the woman they chose, that the actress they got to play this character, they're making it sound like they're going to take her tweets and put them in the game. And that's so weird to me. That's so weird to me, dude. Did I forget about The Last of Us Part 2? No. I remember The Last of Us Part 2 very, very well. The extreme anti-woke has become what they fight against. Kane Z7, you're saying, if you want to know, watch Endymion's latest video at the 1321 mark. Holy shit, bro. What? Steven Leon. No way. Bro, Steven Leon just dropped a 50 bomb in the chat. Steven, another 50 bomb, bro? Oh my God.
Holy shit.
I got to give you the screaming gopher. That's crazy, bro. Guys, I need to see some W's flowing in the chat for Steven Leon dropping 50 membership gifts for you guys. Unbelievably generous. Yeah, Steven, we got to feed the beast and the micro panther now. Thank you so much, man. You're saying I've been pleased this week? Yeah, you dropped a bunch of memberships on my birthday stream, man, and now you dropped another 50 bomb. That's incredible. I'm like shocked, man. I was not expecting that. So the goal we were trying to get to was 25 members today, and you just shot us up to 50, bro. That's some good stuff right there. Let me update the member goal. So to everybody who just got gifted a membership, because a lot of people just got gifted memberships, people are still getting gifted memberships. You said you wanted to get to the goal in one shot. Well, you did it, bro. You single-handedly did it. You crushed it. To anybody who just got gifted a membership courtesy of Steven Leon, you now have access to member perks. So there is a lot of member exclusive content, exclusive gameplay. Most recently, we just did a birthday members lounge. Oh, hold on. My stream just like crapped out on me for a second there. So, yeah, if you receive the membership gift, go check that stuff out. And if you end up enjoying the members content, consider sticking around. You get a free month, essentially. And so once that month is up, it's up to you if you enjoy it, if you find it valuable enough, consider re-upping your membership. It helps support the channel directly. And so, yeah, one more time, Steven, before I continue on here, thank you so much for the support. Yeah, you dropped a 50 bomb on the birthday stream, and now you dropped another one. That's amazing, bro. Thank you so much for that. Means a lot. Kane Z7 was telling me to watch at the 13 minute and 21 second mark. Let me see. Hey, everyone. 13. It's actually far more bleak than I could imagine. Like Ubisoft and others, Sucker Punch also made... Hold on. All right, thank you for the timestamp. I just want to hear... I want to hear what has to be said, because I just want to say before continuing on, like, I do see people. I see what you're saying. I understand. Like, I see that people are saying, bro, did you forget about The Last of Us Part 2? Oh, yeah, I got to feed Boss and Luna. They're like, did you forget about The Last of Us Part 2? Did you forget about Concord? It's like, trust me, I did not forget about any of this stuff, but this is where I just need people to be willing to give something that deserves a fair shot. Be willing to give it that fair shot. For example, I want to remind people, I was not against Concord until we saw what that game was. Okay? If you remember, when I saw that first CGI trailer, and for the year that we sat there, I was like, maybe it'll be good. Maybe it'll be a good multiplayer shooter, you know? And then when we saw like the first 3-4 minute gameplay trailer, I was just like, ooh, oh no, what did they do? And that's why I'm saying, like, we're coming off of Ghost of Tsushima, which is an incredible game. Here you go, bud. We're coming off of Ghost of Tsushima, which is an incredible game. Sucker Punch is a very talented studio. They've made very good games outside of Ghost of Tsushima. And the trailer itself looked good. This is why I'm willing to defend Ghost of Yotei. It's not because I'm defending the actress. And this is what frustrates me, is I think people mistake that, where they're like, well, I guess you're just pro woke DEI or whatever now. And it's like, no, that's not how I feel. I mean, I'm just simply saying that, like, if this, like, the person on Twitter, like, the actual person on Twitter who's giving their opinions and being an activist on Twitter, whatever, man. You know, like, I sure hope that's not reflected in the game, because it doesn't belong in the game. You get what I'm saying? Like, it would be difficult for me to believe. And I know I'm saying this knowing about Concord, but genuinely, it would be very, very difficult for me to believe that Sucker Punch would say, we set this game in the Edo period of feudal Japan, 1603, and we got to make sure to inject this leftist ideology into this game. That makes no sense. And they will get ripped to shreds for doing that. Them having an actress who happens to have those ideologies, you know, in her own personal life, that does not mean we're going to see that in the game. And that's what I'm trying to say. And I see people saying it's Sony Defense Force. Like, dude, that's fine. If you want to see it as me defending Sony, I'm not defending Sony, though. If anything, I'm defending Sucker Punch. I know Sucker Punch is part of Sony, but I'm willing to, at least for now, defend the studio and go out to bat for them. Because they earned that, man. This is what, like, Sony as a whole maybe hasn't earned that. Like, I'm not saying, I know that Sony has had no problem, you know, leaning towards one side and and putting, and allowing certain things. I think that they learned the hard way with a couple of these things that they've allowed, but I'm willing to give Sucker Punch the benefit of the doubt because they earned that, at least. And it makes me depressed that people are willing to just immediately throw them under the bus without even giving them a chance. As if nothing you did previously matters now. It doesn't matter that Ghost of Tsushima was amazing. It doesn't matter that the Infamous games were amazing. None of that matters because look at who you hired to play the main character. And listen, I want to make something abundantly clear. If somebody makes the decision that I do not want to buy Ghost of Yotei because I do not support the actress that they hired to play this character, and I don't want to support that, I could respect that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's your reason for not buying Ghost of Yotei because you don't respect what this actress has said on her Twitter account in her personal life, and that's why you don't want to support Ghost of Yotei, I think that's a perfectly fine, reasonable point and way to go about it. You know what I mean? I think you might miss out on a great game, I'll be honest, but I respect that. That's your decision. But I think it's just a bit much when people try to make it sound like, so because I won't support this game, because I'm not going to buy this game, because I don't support what this actress has to say on Twitter, then nobody should. It's like, you see, that's where things get taken a little too far. Where it's like, can we at least see the game first? Can we see how the writing is? Can we learn about this character in the game? Can we learn about, what Sucker Punch is actually doing here? Can we at least do that? All right, let me read these super chats, and then I'm going to play this clip because Kane Z7 recommended it to me, and I'm curious to see what is going to be said. All right, we have Magnum Gaming. He says, did you catch what Sucker Punch said that Ghost of Yotei will focus more on telling her story while cutting down on fetch quests like the Fox or Bamboo Chops? I did read about them saying they're focusing more on the storytelling and like trying to craft the story, but I don't specifically remember reading anything about them cutting down on like catching the foxes or the bamboo chops. The only thing I did read, I actually have an article up here. It says Ghost of Yotei's gorgeous open world will be less repetitive than Tsushima's. So let me see if it says here. It says the original game was criticized for its repetitive activities while you're out exploring the island. In an interview with the New York Times, creative director Jason Connell comments on this aspect of Ghost of Yotei, saying that it's an area the team is aiming to improve in the sequel. One challenge that comes with making an open world game is the repetitive nature of doing the same thing over and over again. We wanted to balance against that and find unique experiences. So that's the entire quote. They don't specifically say what they're changing or what they're removing or replacing, but I'm not against this necessarily. I did enjoy a lot of the side stuff you did in Ghost of Tsushima, but I also did agree when people were like, well, it did get a bit repetitive. And I'm like, yeah, I like the repetition. I don't mind it. I do like a grind sometimes or a collectathon, but I can also understand why from a development perspective, they might think, we want to kind of make sure it doesn't get too repetitive, right? We want to make sure it kind of finds a good balance. Yeah, I don't think it was too repetitive. I did see some people complaining about that with the game, but I don't think it was. You're saying I'm good with less cookie cutter side stuff. Yeah, I think that's kind of maybe how they're looking at it. If they just stick with too much cookie cutter side stuff, which I don't mind that. Like I said, I don't mind that approach. But from a development standpoint, I can completely understand where like maybe we want to try to do something a little bit more engaging or not as, as we put it, cookie cutter. Cypherpunk says he's just doing what all influencers do, including you. Sensationalism, it works. Well, I mean, there is always some degree of sensationalism in all of this, and even right here, Sony not happy with Ghost of Yotei. That's I don't think that's overly sensationalized, but it's a little bit. But my whole thing, I don't even mind the sensationalism as much as I just care about like what it's cultivating and where it's coming from. You know, I've admitted many times before that I've maybe went in too hard, right? I've over sensationalized or I've been too hyperbolic about some of my takes on some of the things regarding Microsoft and Xbox and the gaming industry as a whole. And I've learned that, you know, it does get pretty toxic pretty quickly. And maybe it's better to just kind of try to remain calm, remain as logical and reasonable as you can, because the further you go in that direction, you know, the crazier you get with it, the more over the top you get with it. It becomes more about the entertainment factor, and again, just kind of cultivating one specific emotion over and over and over again. And I'm not interested in doing that. I mean, maybe in the past I've done that at times, but it has its pitfalls. It does. It has its downsides. It has its pitfalls, just like anything. But the blue box error, yeah, that's perfect example. I mean, I don't know that the ramifications for that were necessarily overly negative, but yeah, that is a great example of like, holy shit, we're sensationalizing the shit out of this thing that's going on. Are we taking it too far? We took it too far. Kareem Ali, you're saying, and Endymion is saying, hold on, let me need to organize this a little bit better so I can read it clearly. Saying, Endymion is saying the game is going to be cross-gen and is smaller scope compared to Tsushima. Like, he makes no sense. Yeah, there's no way that could be. Dude, if that, how could that even be possible? How could they do cross-gen and go for a smaller scope? Like, dude, I looked at the map. The size of I forget the name of the location where, maybe somebody can remind me the name of the location, but the new location, because it's, I think it's Hokkaido, I think is what it's called. If you look at that on the map compared to Tsushima Island, dude, it dwarfs Tsushima Island. So it would be kind of shocking to me if they were actually going for a smaller scope. If you watch that trailer, they definitely are not giving you the impression that they're trying to scope down. Again, unless they're just confusing things here, where when they say scoping down, they mean, like we just talked about, like maybe changing up some of the side stuff. But I fully expect it to be a bigger game. And the idea of it being cross-gen, dude, that doesn't make any sense. There's like zero chance that Sony releases a game like Ghost of Yotei for PS4. That would be, it would make no sense. It would make no sense. However, here's what I want to point out. When we use the term cross-gen, are we talking about PlayStation 6? Like, as in, this game was also built with the PlayStation 6 in mind, and we might get a PlayStation 6 version at some point. That I could kind of see, but we're still a couple years away from that. The idea of it releasing on PS4, I don't know about that one, dude. That sounds ridiculous. 18 May, you're saying we're definitely at a toxic inflection point in the industry, where on one hand we have robots with pronouns, and on the other, people who cry woke at the slightest drop of a hat. Both sides are fed up. Exactly 18 May. And I think one of the problems with it as well is that while both sides are fed up, there's just a lot of people trying to profit off of it in between. You know, there's a lot of people trying to profit off of people's emotions and maybe even overreactions. And this is why I hope that this is maybe the beginning. Maybe I'm too hopeful, but I hope this is the beginning of people slowly starting to kind of wake up and realize that the two things you just listed, I think, are somewhat problematic in that we can't just call everything that has woke at the slightest drop of a hat, but we also should not be seeing developers rolling out games where it's like, check out my robot with pronouns as like a damn near like a selling point. Like, this to me is where we need to just cut all that shit out and just get back to the core of what it is that matters. Good video games with good characters and good storytelling and stuff that years down the line, you're going to look back at and be like, that was awesome. That was one of the, best gaming experiences I've had. One of the most memorable. Like, that's what we need to get back to. And I just feel like there's so much shit going on right now that it does feel like a lot of different people are trying to stop that from being what rises to the top, and people within the industry, people outside of the industry, all around. Marcus, you're saying Overlord DVD, he focuses on games. Now he has leaks and rumors. Ubisoft, do you know that? Marcus, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about here. Captain Hook says Emma Darcy, saying the Queen and House of the Dragon is a they/them and very liberal, but that had nothing to do with her awesome performance in the show. Yeah, well, that's what I mean, man, is like, I understand, and this is a big conversation that has cropped up recently, where it's like, should we learn to separate the art from the artist? And I think that it's a double-edged sword in some cases, because it's like, well, you can only take that so far. I think most of the time we should separate the art from the artist, because the art by itself can be amazing, but there are certain extreme instances where the person associated with the art is so volatile, is so bad, right? Is just so not good, to where it's seemingly impossible to be able to do that. Where anytime you're engaged with that art, the only thing that pops up in your mind is the person in real life and what you know about them, what they've done, and what I think is just kind of nuts about this situation with the actress specifically who's playing Atsu is people are treating this woman like she's a criminal. Like she really has done some serious wrong, that it's like you need to be able to acknowledge this, and this is why you should not even look at this product or consider it. And that's what's crazy to me, where it's like, bro, she's a political activist, like 98% of people on Twitter. Like, she's just pushing certain things that people support, And Laughing Man 923 comes in and drops another 20 bomb on you guys. Holy shit. Laughing Man, thank you so much, bro. That's crazy. Steven Leon dropped a 50 bomb earlier, and now Laughing Man comes in out of nowhere, drops 20 more membership gifts for you guys. Let's get some W's flowing in the chat for Laughing Man. Thank you so much for that, buddy. That brings us up to 70 members on the day. Good stuff, man. Again, our goal today was 25, and we're now sitting at 70. So I'll bump the goal up to 75. Again, I'm not trying to make it sound like you have to agree with this person's opinions on their Twitter account or their political views. I'm not saying you need to agree with them. You can be completely against them and despise those opinions. But I just don't understand why people are, again, like when we talk about the sensationalism and the overreacting, it just seems like people are, they're legitimately acting like this woman is some kind of evil, maniacal villain. And I'm not even trying to defend her, but it's just like I've seen the tweets that people are talking about. I'm like, yeah, I don't whatever, man. I get it. Like you're you're on the liberal side and you're all about that, and that's fine. All I care is I'm like my concern is like, how is your performance in this game? How is the writing in Ghost of Yotei? That's my concern. And that's what bothers me is seeing people coming out and being like, no, but that shouldn't be your concern. Your concern should be her political beliefs. And Steven Leon coming in, dropping the 5 bomb, bro. He says, I'm in a good mood today. Damn, Steven, you're putting me in a good mood. Steven got us to 75 now, bro. Thank you. Well, I guess at this point, when we get member trains going like this, I cap it out at 100. So we'll cap it at 100 here. Really appreciate that support, guys. And let me see here. I have a couple more super chats. Waylark, you're saying hopefully the character is LGBT. Would be an interesting take during that period, in my opinion. I feel the actress would have some input to the character. I mean, they could go in that direction, but that's where I feel like, to me, that would be a bit of a mistake. Like that's where it's like, okay, now you're asking, like that starts to feel a bit like rage bait. You know what I mean? I'm not necessarily saying the sexuality of this character really matters to me that much because, well, to be honest, if you play Ghost of Tsushima, I mean, Jin's sexuality never really, it like wasn't a thing that I thought of during the game. I mean, there were moments with him and Yuna, and you kind of got that sense that maybe they got a thing going on, but they really didn't go in that direction. You know, again, the focus of Jin's story was on his personal journey, and all the side characters around him really came across more so as like just very good, loyal friends more than anything. And if they choose to go in that direction with this new character Atsu, it's like, again, it feels like you're basically asking to invite further criticism, because that's like, I'll be honest with you, man, I'm not going into, based off of what Sucker Punch has told me about Ghost of Yotei, like they're telling me this is a story of vengeance, right? And she's clearly like a lone wolf character. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting to me. So the implication there, at least to me, is that her family or where she comes from, like something bad happened to them. Like there's a group of people that did something bad to the people she cares about most. And now she's on a quest for vengeance. And I'm like, yeah, it's not the most original thing, but that doesn't matter. It's how is it told? How is it executed? And, romance could play a role in that, I guess, and maybe it will, but it's not necessarily, for me, the thing that I'm really concerned with. I'm just concerned with how they're going to match the story of Jin Sakai, because again, when we talk about Jin Sakai, what made his story so great, in my opinion, was that there's a lot of personal inner turmoil. And obviously it had a lot to do with his uncle and his family as a whole, but I just appreciated that the most. What does that smell? Yo, hold on. I got to figure out where this smell's coming from. That doesn't smell good. Guys, give me 1 sec. We're good, man. I think we're good. I didn't realize that the window was open in the other room and my door was open, and I was getting this really weird. It almost smelled like a burning smell or whatever. And I'm like, uh-oh. Better make sure. Yeah, I had an accident. How'd you know? I had an accident. That's why I had to go. But no, the window was open, and I guess there's some weird smell coming through the window. All right. Let me see here. Losing my train of thought. Michael Lynch, you're saying, hold on. Saying, stay strong, MBG. You've got plenty of idiots in the comment section today. I mean, I just wish that people would be willing to just pump the brakes a little bit. It's not in the defense of Sony. It's not, it's not like that. It's not about fanboying or choosing a side politically. And I just wish people would kind of see that that's not what this is about, at least to me. And I don't think that's what it should be about to most people, like, I want to make it abundantly clear, just because I think some people are not understanding entirely. If Ghost of Yotei comes out and it's very clear that, like, they are shoving some shit in this game that feels very forced, feels like people trying to preach, feels like it just simply doesn't belong. And it, like, basically what I'm trying to say is, if the game comes off like a bunch of activists, a bunch of political activists made this game and decided that their political activism needs to be inserted into the game, then we will wreck that game, because that's not what we need and that's not what we want. And that's not at all what I expect from Sucker Punch. Considering when you look at their past games, I'm like, yeah, that's not a thing that they've ever done, even remotely. And I've seen a lot of people saying, on a positive side, a lot of people have been saying is that they trust Sucker Punch here. And that's how I feel. And maybe I'll pay for that. Maybe in the end, I'll find out that, oh my God, no, this is what they're doing. Like, and they're ruining it. Like, what are you doing? Maybe in the end, that is what they're going to do. But I'm not convinced. I haven't seen anything that convinces me that, yeah, that's what we can expect with this game. I understand that there are people, they look at what happened recently with Concord, or some people still think about The Last of Us Part 2, and they're like, well, I have no faith. And I'm not asking you to have faith. I'm not asking you to believe that this game is going to be any better necessarily. I'm just asking people to just not jump the shark here, to just, like, let's give it a shot. Oh my God, my YouTube studio is glitching out today, man. Saying, MBG, you cannot like The Last of Us 2, but there's nothing political that's being pushed in your throat. Well, yeah, I'm referencing The Last of Us Part 2 in the sense that The Last of Us Part 2 is a prime example of too many people jumping the shark. Too many people, like, assuming the absolute worst. And I want to put this out here just to make it known, because I think anybody who's been following it for a while, you already know my video is still out there. I think it might still be my most viewed video ever. I'm not sure. It got like 350,000, 370. I don't know. It got like hundreds of thousands of views. If you listen to that video, it's 20 minutes long. I didn't say anything about anything being woke. I didn't see anything about it. At least I don't believe I said anything about it being political. I'd have to re-listen to it to make sure. But what I do remember for a fact is my main gripe, like my biggest criticism of The Last of Us Part 2, and this was when it came out, this was like at the same time, was basically I was condemning Neil Druckmann and condemning Naughty Dog because I thought that the direction they went in with the characters of Joel and Ellie was just flat out disrespectful to the fans and one of the worst decisions that they've ever made. That's why. It wasn't, and I again, it's a 20-minute video. Maybe one day we'll go back and react to it in like a members on's or something. Yes, that's what I said. I said it felt disrespectful to the fans. Now, granted, I've lightened up on that take since then. That was my initial gut, like I just got punched in the gut, and this is how I feel about what I just witnessed, you know, and what I just experienced. It's been like 4+ years since that, or yeah, it's been like 4 years. So obviously I've relaxed on that a little bit, where I'm like, okay, maybe at the end of the day, it's not that serious. But I just remember the feeling at the time was like, I could not believe this is what they decided to do with Joel and Ellie. Yeah, and I remember that too. People were trying to claim that Abby was transgender and whatnot, and that type of stuff was frustrating because it's like, no, she's not. She's just buff. You know, like she was not transgender. Not that would have been a problem. Like that's the thing. There's like that wouldn't have been a problem per se, but it's like I don't get like people. This is what is so annoying with the shit is it's always the same types of people where it's like, why are you just making stuff up to get people angry and upset at the wrong things? Like I'm over. Like I remember when The Last of Us Part 2 came out, dude. I was over here being like, I can't believe they're making us play half of this game as the character who beats Joel to death with a golf club. I hate this game. That's what I was saying. Like, I can't take this, man. Like, what are they doing? Why would they do this to us? Meanwhile, I'm going out there seeing people like, did you see they have a gay bookstore? Did you hear that Abby's trans? And I'm like, this is not, like, I just don't think this is the shit we should be focused on. Because to me, that's not the problem that I see with the game. It has nothing to do with that. And there was a trans character in the game, by the way. Lev, I think, was the transgender character. Which is just, you know, if you play that game, like, honestly, I thought that the story between Abby and Lev was pretty good overall, where I'm like, oh, yeah, that's not bad. I just wish that Abby had her own game, essentially. Like, I wish this was like a DLC or a spinoff or something, and it didn't have to come at the expense. I wish Abby and Lev's story did not have to seemingly come at the expense of Joel and Ellie. And it did. And that's the way Naughty Dog wanted to do it. And to me, that's not about wokeism or, you know, I guess some people could see that as a political statement, but I never really took it that way, I guess. I just took it as like, and I did have this feeling when people talk about replacing characters, that's what bothered me about playing as Abby. Like, I could accept that Abby killed Joel. I could accept that Joel, you know, he had it coming. He made some poor decisions himself and whatever. And I get that. And I fully expected Joel to die. And I can even accept that. I can even accept the whole story of Ellie's going on a quest for revenge. But once it got to the point where it's like, oh, you're going to be playing as Abby now. She's like kind of a main character that you're going to play as. That's where I'm just like, no. Like, that's not what I wanted from this. That's not even remotely what I wanted. And now it's like, that's a step too far for me, where it's like, this is almost become an unenjoyable game now for me, because I just really don't want to do this. Now, granted, again, when you analyze it holistically, this was Naughty Dog's intention. This is what they wanted to do. And they were really kind of basically trying to mess with you psychologically. And I get it. I just didn't enjoy it. But I think that was Haley Gross. It could have been. Yeah. I forgot that she was part of that too. I think a lot of people don't know that, by the way. I think a lot of people don't know that it's not like, it wasn't just Neil Druckmann who wrote that game. It was Haley Gross as well. Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry to go on that tirade. I know you guys are probably sick and tired of hearing that. I do apologize. Josh, you're saying, speaking of that, I came across a short video I would like you to react to. I came across it yesterday. What video is it, Josh? I don't know if it... Oh, it might let you post it since you're your mod. Saying, here we go again. Joel effing saved Ellie. They wanted to kill her. Are you people... I'm not going to read that. How is that the same thing as murder with a golf club? No, yeah, dude, that's the thing. I agree with you in that, like, when people say Joel had it coming, I don't think it was because of what he did. I don't look at it as what he did in the hospital. At least that's not my interpretation of it. When people say Joel had it coming, I actually assume it's based off of his past actions. If you remember, you know, in the game, it's revealed that Joel and his brother spent time as what were they called, like hunters or whatever. I think that's what they were called. But essentially, like, really terrible people that would just, like, murder innocent people and steal their shit to survive. And Joel very much, like, straight up said, like, yeah, it was a dark time, and there was, like, further implications between Joel and his brother, where, you know, Joel, like, freaked out on his brother, being like, you survived because of me, you know? And yeah, and even Tess said it too. She's like, we're just shitty people. And, like, there's 100% the implication that Joel lived a pretty shitty life after the outbreak and has done very regrettable bad stuff. But that's why I think that makes the ending of The Last of Us even better. Thank you, Josh. I'll bring that up. It makes the ending of The Last of Us even better because oh, hold on. Because that's the thing, man, is in Joel's eyes, he was like, you know what? This, I don't know if he saw it as his redemption, but it's like, I've done a lot of shitty things, and it was just in the name of saving myself, you know? And I couldn't save my own daughter. And everything I've done since then was just in the name of saving myself. So it's like, or, you know, trying to save whoever else is around me. But now I'm, you know, he's just going to go all in and just be like, no, I'm not letting you kill her. You know, I'm making that choice. And I don't think that was the wrong choice. I don't think that was a bad, I mean, obviously it's bad that he had to kill so many people to save her, but it's just, you know, like, I think any father would understand his decision making, you know, and why he did that. And I don't necessarily think that that's why he did. Like, when people say, oh, he got what was coming to him, I don't think it was like Joel got a golf club to the head because of this one person he killed. Like, no, it's like, dude, realistically, if we could find out what he did as a hunter, we'd probably think, yeah, he kind of deserved that. But no, if you look at what happens in The Last of Us Part 2, again, not to just continue to overanalyze it, but he saved Abby. And she beats him to death with a golf club. Like, that literally, I think sometimes people don't really think about, like, how pertinent that is, where it's like, he saved her life, and in return, he gets beat to death with a golf club. Like, if anything, Abby's in the wrong there. And I know, I get it. It's like, well, he did murder her father. It's like, yeah, but then he saved her life. And so it's one of these things where, again, you're saying no good deeds, bro. Exactly. It's one of these things where, you know, it's just the way things are. And I do appreciate that level of just kind of like, holy shit, what's going on? You know, because stuff like that, that's real life. Real life is like that. But that's the irony. Yeah. He killed her father. She's been hunting him for years. He also happens to be the person that saves her life. I mean, imagine if The Last of Us Part 2 story went like this. Imagine if Joel saves Abby's life when she's about to get eaten by an infected or chewed up. He saves her life, helps her escape and live, and then she finds out, oh my God, that's the guy I've been hunting. And basically she says, you know what? I was going to kill you, but you just saved my life, and I'm a stranger. So I'm just going to walk away. Boring. Game over. Literally, the first act of the game is the entirety of the game. It's over. Joel goes back. You know, he goes back. He lives happily ever after. And you're saying that literally did happen. Ellie walked away. And thus the circle closes. Yep. Damn. Yeah, I don't know, man. The Last of Us 2 has been living in my head rent-free for like the past 4 years, so in case you can't tell. Joel trusting a stranger he didn't like. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because the more I contemplate what they did with Joel as a character, the more I realize that basically as they turned Joel into more of a likable character, and the more and more they humanized Joel, it clearly was coming at the expense of this guy ain't going to make it, you know? Like, Joel ain't going to make it being who he really is. And kind of depressing if you think about it, but I will say, if there's one thing that I came around on with The Last of Us Part 2, and I mean this, I know some people probably are like, damn, MBG, I would have never thought you'd be saying this, but I mean this. If there's one thing I truly did come around on with The Last of Us Part 2, after thinking about it, like, I mean, so thoroughly for so many years, is that they did not, I don't believe they disrespected Joel as a character. I think there's there could be a conversation to be had where it's like, did they disrespect the fan base by choosing to go in this direction overall with the characters of Joel and Ellie? Maybe. But that's one of those things where it's like, are they our characters or are they Naughty Dog's characters? But at the end of the day, like, the more I really deeply analyze what they did to Joel in that game, where it's like, yeah, he died in a very shitty way, but everything else they showed you of his character in that game was to show you how good of a person he was. You know? But yet, Bill literally predicted his death. You're absolutely right. And that, to me, was like, I guess, just something that was difficult for me to really fully absorb when I was experiencing that game, because I'm just like, I don't know, man. He's real to me, goddammit. But yeah, I mean, when I think about the ending of The Last of Us Part 2, and, you know, the last scene is like Joel, he's just, you know, he speaks his truth to Ellie, and he's like, look, I would do it again. Because he, in his heart, he didn't believe he was wrong for saving Ellie. And I think maybe, I don't know, I guess that's what it took for Ellie to just eventually realize, like, I guess he wasn't wrong, you know? Like, he did what he did because he truly believed in it, and it was out of love. But at the end of the day, man, Joel just became, you know, he became who he was, right? Like, if you look at Joel at the beginning of his arc, Joel was just a dad. You know, I think sometimes people forget, like, he was just a regular dude, being a dad, living his life, chilling with his daughter, getting a present for his birthday from his daughter. And then, you know, he has to turn into a monster to survive. But by the end, man, when he finally was able to, he saved Ellie, he was able to go live and retire essentially at, you know, at the camp. I forget the name of the encampment. I mean, you know, if you play the part in The Last of Us Part 2 where you're playing as Ellie and you walk through his house, you know, it's like, damn, bro was making, yeah, Jackson, thank you. Bro was straight up making carvings. He was doing wooden carvings in his free time while drinking his coffee. And I always just, you know, I did appreciate those moments because it was like, wow, okay, the game did, they did in a way honor Joel in that, like, he's a good guy. Like, he's not the villain you like that some people, and I think that is another thing that made the discourse around The Last of Us Part 2 so depressing, is that it became a kind of like war where it's like, who's right, Joel or Abby? Whose side are you on? And I remember seeing a lot of people on social media being like, fuck Joel, I hate Joel, like he was an asshole. And I'm like, I don't think that that's what they were trying to convey at all, you know? All right, yeah, I'm sorry about that. That's what happens. Once I get going about The Last of Us, I'll go on and on forever. Like I said, that game lives in my head rent free, bro. The true answer is there is no right answer. Taicho, you're saying Joel had it coming. He killed Abby's father. You are lying if you wouldn't get revenge like Abby did. No, I'm not. I'm not saying what I would or wouldn't do. I don't know. You know, I think nobody really knows until they're in a moment like that. It's just a kind of split second decision. But Kareem Ali, you're saying not trying to rush, but are you watching Endymion? Yeah. I'm going to play that in just a second. I also, Josh Z, you sent me another video called The Last of Us 2, The Anatomy of Audience Discomfort. This was some 6 months ago. Josh, I might save this. At the very least, I'm going to watch this on my own time. I want to say, by the way, because I appreciate you guys sending me different videos to watch. A couple of you guys, I think like ACM yesterday, recommended. I watched two videos. One was from, I forget his name, but a Japanese content creator who is also a big fan of Japanese film. And he reacted to Ghost of Yotei, and it was interesting to see his perspective. And he really liked, one of the things he was highlighting in his video is that, like, dude, Sucker Punch absolutely knows what they're doing here in terms of kind of taking cues from very well-known and established and well-made, like, Japanese cinematic masterpieces. Another video was from, I think, a YouTuber who's a lot more popular and well-known, Metatron. And somebody recommended I watch that video and his analysis of Ghost of Yotei, which I did. It was a longer video. It was almost like 30 minutes. And I really appreciated what he said because he was making a lot of the same points that I was making, which was he was acknowledging that they could do some revisionism and they could end up going in a direction that they need to be called out for, and we need to stop this shit. But he was also saying that, like, based off of what he's seeing in the trailer, it doesn't seem like they're going in that direction. And we should give them a chance and let them, you know, and let them show their hand first. Yeah, he's very level-headed about it. And I appreciate that because it's like, yeah, we need to see more of that. But you could tell he's seeing, you know. All right. But yeah, Josh, I'm going to keep that video up, and I think when we wrap up the stream here, I'm going to check it out and watch it. So it's not a long one. It's like 11 minutes. All right. So yeah, this Endymion person, he released a new video and he claims to have more inside info, supposedly, about the situation with Ghost of Yotei. So I figured we could just listen to what he has to say about it. Oh, Jesus. All right. Let me get it set up here.
About Ghost of Tsushima and Yotei, it's actually far more bleak than I could imagine. Like Ubisoft and others, Sucker Punch also makes games in a way that my sources told me are called made by committee. Basically, these games are decided, then when the actual ideas come to what gets made and put into the game, it's almost like you have the heads of each department, if you will, at a round table, but not really, of course. They could be doing it all over Zoom or something, but same idea. Anyway, they'll propose an idea like they'll say we want a male main character or a female one, and then the committee of devs will then say yes or no, and then they vote on what gets made. And this process is used for many, many different aspects of every single game being made right now. Like, we want more diversity, please vote yes or no. We want the story to push anti-white supremacy, say yes or no, etc. This way of making games...
Wait, why did he specifically say, like, we want this game to support anti-white supremacy? That is such a random... yeah, very oddly specific. Also... hold on. My question is this, a genuine question here. Who is voting yes to white supremacy? I can't help but laugh at that, because it's like, you know, somebody sitting there be like, this is a test, right? So, all right, we're going to take a vote here, guys. Do we want to support anti-white supremacy? And somebody's like, is that a trick question? I would like more white supremacy in my games. Like, come on, bro. It sounds like a skit or some shit, dude. Anyway, let me I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt it. Let's keep listening.
As I'm told, it leads to why a lot of activism nonsense makes its way into games these days. Because a bunch of activists could and likely will sit on their committee board and just through voting will overwhelm the minority of votes to ensure that everything meets their demands. So when it comes to Naoe and Yasuke being a thing in Shadows, you can almost definitely believe that it was likely voted on and decided by a committee as well. The same thing is happening at Sucker Punch right now. I was also told, and take this with a big fat grain of skepticism again, but apparently most of the competent devs have indeed left Sucker Punch quietly already. I cannot confirm this, but from what I'm being told, the key talent behind Tsushima have left amidst the second game in the series being made. I was told that originally Yotei was not the original game idea at all. It was actually indeed Ghost of Tsushima 2 starring Jin Sakai. But sometime during development, a lot like Shadows, the game was halted and then completely changed in vision. This Atsu character we see was not originally decided to be the main character of this game. And apparently, according to my sources, Yotei's world and design are largely based on the assets that were being used while making Tsushima 2. Apparently, work began on Tsushima 2 around 2 months after the official sales data came through on the first game's success. A skeleton crew was left behind to work on the Legends multiplayer, and the same team made the Iki Island DLC expansion as well. From what I'm told in terms of Yotei, the team that made the Iki Island DLC are the primary devs on this game, and the actual Sucker Punch that's left is allegedly mostly working on something else. Take this with your grains of salt or whatever people say, but yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be honest, man, like something is not adding up here. Like at all. I mean, when it comes to the idea of developers leaving, I mean, I have no doubt that Sucker Punch lost some developers. That's a industry turnover, especially after the completion of AAA games, no matter how successful they are, is very common. But I want it to be known that most of the, if not all of the head people at Sucker Punch, as far as I am aware, none of them have left. They have the same, like, directors. So that's a little bit sketchy. But something here that really sounds like, I think you're getting taken for a ride here. The biggest thing to me is, excuse me, is this idea that they basically rebooted development. that we were making Ghost of Tsushima 2 initially, but then like halfway through we decided, actually, you know what? Never mind. We're just going to go in a completely different direction. Another reason this doesn't make any sense is because the timing of this game. Games that get like rebooted mid-dev, I mean, from what I can tell, man, like this game, I don't say it's like almost complete, but they're targeting 2025. And if this game comes out in 2025, that's a 5-year dev cycle. In 2024, like that's a good amount of time. Like that's not overly long. That's not the shortest dev cycle, but that's about right for as long as it would take. Where if you're going to start making a game, beginning, middle, and end, that's about how long it would take. It just, so, I don't know, man. It sounds so ridiculous. Like, I just don't. I mean, does the person see something else too that I want to mention is that whoever this guy's source is, like, they're not giving any reasoning. They're just like saying things, but not saying why. Like, oh, they were making Ghost. Their original plan was to make Ghost of Tsushima 2, and that's what they were going to do. But here's what also makes no sense. The source is claiming that the assets we're going to see in Ghost of Yotei apparently were going to be used for Ghost of Tsushima 2. In other words, it was going to still be set on Tsushima Island, I guess. Like, I don't know how you could call it Ghost of Tsushima 2 if it's not set on Tsushima Island. But what makes no sense about that is if you look at the trailer, a lot of the locations were clearly made from the ground up because they're based on real-world locations where the game is located. So it, like, doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. Yeah, I'm going to... You know what this reminds me of? I saw the picture, by the way. Somebody told me yesterday that there was like a picture floating around where it was showing 2 snapshots from the developers of Sucker Punch. And on the left side, it was a bunch of male developers. It was maybe about like 12 or 15 male developers from Sucker Punch sitting at a table. And then on the right side, it was maybe like 12 to 15 female developers posing for some kind of, not posing, but they were taking some kind of group photo for, I guess, the studio or whatever. And people were like, they were using this image and they were like, gee, I wonder why Ghost of Tsushima is going to be woke or why it's starring a female lead. And basically what they're saying is the developers inside of Sucker Punch were replaced by female devs. It's like, bro, Sucker Punch is a team of like 150 developers. You showed at most between the males and the females a total of like 30 or 35 devs. You can't be this, like, I don't know if people are this stupid, but they need to not be this stupid. Like, they really need to try a lot harder to not be this stupid. And my recommendation to people more than anything is, again, be very careful who you're listening to and who you're trusting, because that right there, man, is like, this is the type of stuff that people are latching onto and trying to throw at this game to smear it. And again, that's not me defending Sony. That's just me pointing out that, like, that's not real, bro. Like, there's no logic here. This is a level of stupidity that people need to be able to identify, like, immediately. Like, that makes no sense. This is stupid. What are you talking about? You can't. Yeah, people need to stop being so ignorant about this stuff where it's like, you're showing me about 15 female developers that were clearly got together for a specific photo for the studio, and you're trying to make me think that this studio, that Sucker Punch, was taken over by women. This is what I mean. It's the nasty people that slide through the cracks. They slide through the cracks, and they, like, these are people that are just straight up being sexist, being misogynistic, just being shitty people, and they hide it behind the guise of, no, man, I'm just I'm anti-woke and anti-DEI. Like, no, you're just fucking sexist is what you are. I say that as somebody who has identified that there definitely are some maniac, extreme leftist people that are making some very stupid decisions. Both of these things can and do exist at the same time, and they both got to fuck off. I think that it's about time. I think it's about time that these two things just need to fuck off collectively. Because when you talk about people getting fed up, this is the type of shit that I'm getting fed up with, where it's almost like a race to the bottom. Like, who can sound dumber at the end of the day? Who can make up the most ridiculous shit quicker and get people to believe it? Who's going to win that race? It's a new form of rat race, and it's so disheartening to see, man. Cobb Sani says his sources trust me, bro. I mean, listen, I was listening to this earnestly, dude. Like, I was taking this seriously for a moment until I realized, like, literally not a single thing that was said makes any sense whatsoever. Not a single thing that was said. Now, listen, if we start getting some kind of reporting from, like, Jason Schreier, Tom Henderson, Jeff Grubb, people with credibility, people who don't have some kind of agenda, seemingly. I mean, I don't know. People say that Jason Schreier has an agenda, but maybe he does. But I'm just saying, when we get it from credible sources who've proven to be correct in their reporting time and time again, if we start to hear this stuff come from those sources, then I'm going to raise an eyebrow and be like, uh-oh. But here's what I want to point out, too. And this is something else I want to say to just kind of bring my point. I want to kind of bring my point around here. I want to drive it home. Hold on. Sorry, I'm having issue. YouTube's been glitching out like crazy today. All right. Yeah, so the point I want to drive this point home as best I can. Just because it is a situation where we are seeing the degradation of a game, in my opinion, that definitely doesn't deserve it in real time. And let me paint this picture for you, right? We all know what happened with Concord. And it was not good. Okay. When we were covering Concord, I had a lot to say about it. I still have a lot to say about it even today, but it's done, it's over. But one of the last things that came out about Concord was a report from Colin Moriarty. Colin Moriarty did extensive, I guess, investigation into what happened with Concord with what he calls an ironclad source. And I want to say, like, the difference here is, first off, I've been following Colin Moriarty, like, I mean, for like probably 12 plus years at this point. He's definitely not somebody that would just make shit up. That is pretty obvious. Could he be lied to and misled? Yeah. But that can happen to anybody. But I'm saying he emphasized that the source he talked to about the Concord situation was ironclad. But the most important thing is that if you listen to what he said, that the source told him, like, this is what the source who would know. He said he vetted the shit out of this person. This is somebody who would know these things about Concord. I still think his source was Jim Ryan himself. But he vetted the shit out of this source. But most importantly, when you listen to the things that were said about, here's what happened with Concord behind the scenes, literally every single thing except for one thing sounded completely believable. The only thing that was stated that people could not stop focusing on, and they were like, that's bullshit, that's not true, is the $400 million budget. But I tried to explain to people that you got to be careful when you talk about that $400 million budget, because nobody's saying Sony paid $400 million. That's not what he said. That's not what's being stated. That's what's being reported. If you listen to the context, the source was revealing that from the time the project was incubated, before Sony even got involved, if you add up all of the money from the time that the project was incubated at Probably Monsters all the way to its release, it probably totals close to around $400 million. And that's money being lost from multiple parties, not just Sony. But putting that aside, if you listen to everything about that was said about this game, where it was like there was this toxic positivity mindset where you couldn't say anything bad about the game. And if you said something bad about the game, you were not listened to and you were not taken seriously. And it almost, I mean, he didn't say this, but it almost sounded like you would get shamed or something. Like, you can't do that. Go look at Concord, bro. Go look at the first gameplay, the first proper reveal trailer of Concord. It bleeds right through the screen, dude. You can see that, oh yeah, that was made in a fucking bubble. That was made in a toxic positivity bubble, and it screams, it jumps off the screen at you. It just tells you that. You listen, like when you hear things like that, it's like, yeah, that makes complete sense because that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing in front of me. So it adds up. That's why I think these rumors about Ghost of Yotei, like literally nothing is adding up. Like, okay, I hear what you're saying about there's executives inside of Sony that are unhappy about this game or something, or blindsided. And now the new rumor is claiming that the game was essentially rebooted mid-gen or mid-development, and they decided to not do Ghost of Tsushima and not go further with Jin Sakai, but instead we're just going to have a new character, a whole new location. They decided that like halfway through development or whatever, and now they're like reusing assets and shit. I'm like, literally nothing I'm seeing is even remotely indicating that. Nothing. Like, everything looks new. Everything looks like it definitely took at least 4 years to make. It's a whole new location. You know, it's set literally on the opposite side of Japan. We got a new character. They say we have a whole new story we want to tell. Like this, all this shit sounds like stuff that was decided pretty much from the onset. There's nothing here that gives me any indication that this is some kind of rushed development cycle, that it was basically in development hell. Yeah, and the idea of reused assets, like, I mean, are we talking about like grass? I mean, it's still set in Japan, you know? I'm sure there's going to be some reused assets. That's very normal, for especially for sequels. But I don't know, man. It's just, I want people to just, again, you gotta think a little bit more critically based off of what you're seeing from the source itself. Okay? I bet you there are a lot of people who would have seen the first gameplay trailer of Concord, and without getting any external input, they don't go on YouTube and watch videos. They don't go on Reddit and read comments. They don't go on Twitter and read what they just were totally out of the loop. I bet you most people would have walked away and be like, that looks pretty generic, and I'm not really interested. I mean, sure, some people maybe would have been like, oh, that's, woke. But generally speaking, I think people would have just naturally come to the conclusion that something doesn't look quite right here, and it doesn't look very good. You get what I'm saying? To whereas I feel like what we're seeing with Ghost of Yotei, it seems to me that people are needing to go above and beyond and very much go out of their way to try to convince people, like, you should be upset with this game. And that, to me, is where things get very disingenuous. But apparently in the video he tries to say that Sucker Punch is a new Rocksteady and Yotei is a kill the Justice League situation. I mean, how is that even possible, dude? I mean, I understand from the point of like Kill the Justice League went way too far off the deep end, bro. Kill the Justice League went way off the deep end where it's like, what are you guys doing? Again, man, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll take the L. And trust me, I'll be right there. I want to make it clear. Again, I think people are too quick to, at least not you guys, but I'm seeing that some people seem to be too quick to forget. Like, I was here for Concord, man. I hope people were listening to what I had to say about Concord. You know? Like, trust me, if they fuck up Ghost of Yotei, I will be here and I will be tearing that shit up. Because that's, like, I will be so, like, it's one thing if Concord flops because it's Concord. I don't even know what that is. If Sucker Punch completely betrays us and goes in some stupid ass direction with this game and just fucks it all up and creates one of the most uninteresting, annoying characters and has a terrible plot and we go and we play the game and it's like, wow, they really did just reuse all the assets and what happened? If it's a terrible game and they also were pushing some kind of like weird, you know, subplots in the game that literally have no place being there because it's like, wait, I thought this game was based in 1603. You know? If they start doing that shit, I will be here and I will be tearing up this game because I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't think anybody wants that. But I can't do it. I can't do it right now because I didn't see that in that trailer. I did not see that in that trailer. I see the tweets that people are showing me from the actress who plays the character. I get that. But she's not Sucker Punch. She's not the game. She's the actress portraying the character in the game. But she didn't write the game. She didn't produce the game. I understand that some people might think maybe she had some influence over it. That's a possibility. We will find out. We will find out. But, yeah. I want to say a couple more things, though, too. And I'll read the rest of these. Let me see. We got Samson. He says, Ghost of Yotei, Revenge of the Lesbian Warrior, journey to take down the homophobic warlord. I mean, see, to me, that sounds so much less interesting than what we got with Ghost of Tsushima. And I get it. Like, I understand. Like, that's the fear that people have, right? I get it. I get the idea that it's like, well, what if they make some kind of story like exactly what you're saying? She's a lesbian, you know, badass, and the main antagonist of the game is just very outwardly homophobic. Like, dude, if that's sorry, Sucker Punch. Like, if that's what you decided to do with a follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima, I'm going to pass. Because that sounds horrible. Not because she's a lesbian, not because the warlord or whoever the main antagonist is homophobic, but because that sounds so contrived and so ridiculous. That doesn't sound interesting at all. That sounds like, goddamn. Who, like, that does sound like, did the actress who plays the character write this game? You know? It sounds ridiculous. Like, that sounds so boring. I want something more, I expect something more intense than that. I expect something deeper than that. That sounds like some surface level fodder for, you know, for people to bicker about. We're gonna subvert your expectations. We're gonna upset the far right extremists and whatnot. You know, we're gonna upset the conservatives. Like, no, that's way too surface level. That's way too nonsensical. And if that's the direction they decide to go in, I would probably be like, bro, that's not at all what I want from whatever the story is. I do expect a story of vengeance, like they say, but I expect it to be deep. You know, I expect it to be like, even if they, look, man, I don't know if they're going to make this character a lesbian or not. I think that would be a bit ridiculous because it's like, again, I would have no, like, the idea of the main character of Ghost of Yotei being a lesbian in and of itself is not problematic. What is problematic to me, what would be problematic to me is like, so you're literally copying Naughty Dog and Guerrilla now. Like, can you guys please not copy each other and just do the same thing as the other studio next to you? That would be my problem, where it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And that's why that would be uninteresting. What I think would be very cool, personally, you're saying, so it does bother you. Yeah, but not for the reasons that it would bother other people. Like, I would not be bothered because of her sexuality. I would be bothered because it's like, bro, why are you just copying Naughty Dog and Guerrilla's homework? Like, Guerrilla copied Naughty Dog's homework. Now, Sucker Punch is copying Guerrilla's homework, and they copied Naughty Dog's. You get what I'm saying? It like, I don't want to see that domino effect of unoriginality. And and to be fair, we have no idea. I think a cool story for Ghost of Yotei would be something along the lines of, I'm not saying it's the most original, but if they handle it correctly, it could be interesting where, you know, I think it would be interesting. I mean, I think it's kind of obvious that they're trying to set it up where clearly where she comes from, like maybe if it was her family or her village or her whole clan wiped out and she's the only one left and she's going to go on a, you know, just one by one. Like, I'm going to take out everybody. I'm the last one standing. I'm going to take everybody out and get my revenge. I know that is very unoriginal, but if they execute that properly and they add some layered depth, nuanced depth to it, that could be awesome. Because that, I don't know, that to me sounds more in line with what they're kind of showing here. Yeah, kind of Kill Bill-ish, yeah. And obviously there'll be like side stories and whatnot. But maybe they could make it even deeper, you know, where the person that she's hunting down, like the leader or whoever, maybe she had a relationship with this person, or like she knows, you know, this person, I don't know, just maybe a story of betrayal or something. That'd be cool. I would really like to see that because to me, that sounds much more in line with, the type of storytelling we saw in Ghost of Tsushima, where it's, you know, it's very much about the inner conflict of, do you honor your code or do you break your code to do what you believe is the right thing and save people? So that is, again, it's a very simple concept, but it's a very universal concept. It's one that makes sense for the time period. It's one that I think everybody can kind of like experience that type of storytelling and be like, what would I do? You know? An ex-boyfriend. There you go. All right, we have Alan Gould. He says, did you check the video YouTuber Shohei Kondo about Ghost of Yotei story reveal? It will blow your mind how old is the game is good. The video only takes 10 minutes. I did watch this yesterday. Yes. I watched the Shohei Kondo video on it, and I enjoyed his reaction, man. I did. He was pretty fun to watch, and he was pretty excited for it, but it was interesting to get his insight, you know? Have we ever discussed Sony's DEI job listings? It's literally called a DEI team. Instead of focusing on vintage PlayStation quality / new titles, we get this. This is the problem. Yeah, I mean, stuff like that, I'll be honest with you, man. It does feel like, okay, you might be trying a bit too hard here. But one thing that I've come to understand is that that's just a thing now. And I don't know that it's going to ever go away. I'm just going to be honest. Like, yeah, all big companies, dude, like this is something that they do internally. And it's basically an expected requirement. I don't know that. I mean, we don't know how much they really care about it, but it's basically like a box that they have to check off now. And I do feel like it's a bit like, okay, this seems a bit forced, and I feel like it shouldn't have to be this forced, but it's every big company does shit like that. And yeah, and that's the thing. I see somebody saying it's been around for decades. I agree. I think it has been around for a very long time. I just think now it's becoming more of like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to say a priority, but it's clear that the initiative has been, I would say, elevated to a degree, you know? And I mean, when we talk about DEI, like, again, what do you consider DEI? You know, people weaponize the term DEI. They weaponize it. And I'm telling you, I think half the people who use it don't even know what they mean or what they're talking about. Because if you're going to use that term, I would just prefer, why don't you just explain instead what you're talking about? Rather than just say, I'm tired of this DEI crap, why don't you just explain what it is you're tired of? That will be more effective, because there are too many people throwing the term around, you know, DEI. Hiring based on the superficial versus ability. There you go, Gavin. Thank you. See, I agree with that. That, to me, makes no sense. A person, I understand, like, there needs to be a level of, we need to be able to try to diversify, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with that. But you cannot prioritize. You cannot prioritize, like you're saying, something superficial, such as a person's skin color or their ethnicity, over a person's ability. You need to hire the best person for the job. That should be the number one priority. So I do agree that that's where, you know, there's always kind of this tug of war where it's like, well, how many people are getting hired that are underqualified? How many people are losing out to certain jobs because they're, you know, they are more than qualified, but for certain reasons, you know, because they can't check off certain boxes, they're not, like, that's the type of shit where it's like, we can't go, like, we can only really go so far with it. But see, that's what I mean. Like, when we mention things like DEI and then further explaining by saying, well, what about the idea of people being hired for the wrong reasons, for the superficial reasons that don't actually benefit their goals and what they're trying to get done and what they're trying to achieve? You know, we're talking about you know, consumer products. You know, there shouldn't be an overemphasis on, like, participation awards, you know what I mean? And making sure everybody, you know, you need to be able to give people a chance. I do believe in that. You do need to be able to, you know, you need to be able to allow people to show what they're capable of. But again, if at the end of the day, it's clear, like, so-and-so has more, like, is just more qualified and does a better job, objectively speaking, than so-and-so. And the only difference between them is their gender or their race or their ethnicity or whatever. Like, yeah, that should come second. You know, that should come second. I don't think there's anything unfair about that. I mean, you know, would that create a potential problem for a company where it's like, you guys aren't inclusive enough? Maybe. But if at the end of the day, it's like, well, we're trying to achieve our goals as efficiently as possible. So yeah, there does need to be some level of mitigation there, where I don't think it's in the best interest of a company like Sony to just ignore it completely and be like, no, we're not paying attention to that at all. Because I just feel like I just think that that's not realistic. You're too big of a company. Like, you just can't do that. But you also can't prioritize that and make it seem like this is the be all end all and this is the ultimate determining factor, because that's, well, if that's the case, then you're going to ruin your products. And you're going to ruin them because you're hiring the wrong people. You're hiring underqualified people. You're hiring people who are here for the wrong reasons. And that to me is just, honest. I'll be honest, man, like, that's kind of pathetic. You know? It's kind of pathetic because it's like, I wouldn't want to be hired over somebody else for reasons like that. That would make me feel like shit. I would hope that if I got hired somewhere, it's because they're like, you're the right person for the job, and you prove it through your skill and your ability. That's what I would hope. You know? You're saying PlayStation is doubling down on DEI, ESG initiatives. They said so themselves. Is it only coincidence that they replaced Jin Sakai with a female protagonist? Well, that's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying we're going to find out. Because, listen, man, a part of this, again, I was there for Concord, bro. All right? And I'm not trying to, I don't want to turn into the other side, because that's a problem too. Like, oh, you're like, are there people who are sexist and racist? And yeah, there are. But I don't believe there's that many people that are like that. Like, truthfully, I think most people are not like that. I think that sometimes people can just, on both ends, they can just kind of come off, they can be perceived a certain way, even though that's not really how they are, I don't want people to think that I'm the type of person that if you say, hey, I'm not interested in Ghost of Yotei, I don't like the direction they're taking, that I'm just going to turn to you and be like, oh, that's because you're sexist and homophobic and blah, blah. Like, no. Like, those terms get thrown around too much as well. But the reason why I am reacting this way is because, dude, I could not believe what I was seeing the day I streamed it. And I want to make that clear. And I know that most of you know this, but just in case there are people who are not aware, I literally saw people being straight up full-blown misogynistic in my chat. Not you guys, but just, I guess, like, we had over like 2,000 people watching or whatever, and a lot of new people. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, what am I seeing right now, dude? And it made me realize that this is real. Like, this absolutely is real, and it does exist. And it's depressing. And it did piss me off. It did. And it made me want to turn to all those people and be like, fuck all of you. Like, you're all idiots, Like, what are you even talking about? But that's different. Like, I want to make it clear, like, that is different. That is not the same thing as a person who is looking at something like Ghost of Yotei and looking at the situation holistically and saying, you know what? Is there too much of an emphasis on the wrong things that are not necessarily here to serve to make the product better, that is not prioritizing the right skill sets? And it's all in the name of, well, we have to be as inclusive as possible, even if that degrades the product. That's a different, like, that's a worthwhile question to ask, because that's not somebody just saying, I have a problem with this because of your skin color or your ethnicity or your, how you identify or your sexuality. Like, no, that's a problem with, I'm concerned about your ability, your level of skill, and if you're truly the best person for the job. That's why I think it's so funny when, like, we see some of these games where one of the things that I said about Concord as a positive was, I was like, if you play Concord, there, like, clearly there's a lot of developers that worked on this game, and they have a level of skill where it's like, yeah, they know how to make a game, but it just seems to me like somebody, I don't know if it was a group of people or so, like somebody basically was like, but we need to make sure that your skill and your development skill and what you're creating here, it's got to be fed into something that, generally speaking, people might find uninteresting or appalling. I mean, some people were straight up like, what the F am I looking at, you know? And that to me is like, it's just very clear that there was a certain subsect of Firewalk where they hired the wrong people, dude. And some people say maybe it was the artists and the character designers, where it's like any rational person, any rational professional would have looked at that, and you don't even have to be a professional, and said, you need to take that back to the drawing board. That's bad. I'm just going to be brutally honest. That is bad. You need to start over, and we need to do better than that. And for some reason, that didn't happen. And that's because somebody didn't do their job the way they should have, because they were underqualified or they were there for the wrong reasons. That didn't happen because somebody was afraid of hurting somebody's feelings. That didn't happen because the people involved just didn't, they were not skilled enough. Like, they did not have enough experience to realize that nobody's going to like this because it looks pretty terrible. You know what I mean? Somebody didn't do their job, or a group of people didn't do their job, and because of it, the worst happened. And this is where, when people do bring up, like, you know, should we be worried about how this impacts not just all of PlayStation, but all of gaming? We do. Yet there needs to be some level of concern. And this is why I always advocate for a balance, where it's like, hey, man, I want to be inclusive and I do want to diversify. There's nothing wrong with those initiatives, except I want to do so at the expense of actual skill and qualification. Then that's a problem. And that's to be honest, that's a tough thing, because it's like, well, how's it going to look if we hire a team of devs and, you know, it's like one group of people, all the same skin color, you know, but they all got hired because of their qualifications, because we determined that each one of them is best suited for this. How's that going to look? That shouldn't matter. That's when you got to just let that shit go. Hey, we gave everybody an equal opportunity. You know, we were fair. But at the end of the day, these are the people that made the cut and that got the job. And if they all happen to have the same skin color, or they all happen to be the same gender, whatever. If it's because they all were the best at what they do, that's what should fucking matter. And that, I do agree, we need to be careful about that. Because there are absolutely people who are entering this industry that don't see it that way. There are people entering the industry that they do want to hire people just based off of what's your skin color, what's your ethnicity, what's your race, what's your sexuality. Because we could really use that. Why? I don't know. I don't know what any of that has to do with, are you a good artist or not? Do you, like, what are your qualifications to be an artist on a on this AAA game? And that's what worries me, is that there does seem to be, again, I'm not convinced that that's Sucker Punch, by the way. I'm not saying that I think that's what Sucker Punch is doing. I don't think so. Like, for example, I know I'm not saying they're grabbing random people off the street. I know it's not like that. And I don't think it's as bad, to be clear. I don't think it's as bad as people are saying. But I just think it's clear that in some areas you can see, like, oh, this can and does happen. And when it does, it leads to disastrous results. You know? And I just, that's interesting. Nick, you're saying, well, maybe a black artist can make a black can make black characters better with more realistic hairstyles. Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said for that, I would say. You know, I'm not saying there aren't certain instances where maybe sometimes certain considerations like that could make sense, but we got, you know, it's very touchy. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be very careful how you navigate that, because you know, it's like saying, well, if we were going to go all the way, this is why I'm saying it's a matter of balance here. If we were going to go all the way in the direction of like, well, we need to hire the most qualified people. I mean, technically, wouldn't the most qualified people to make a game based in feudal Japan be, you know, Japanese historians? You know? But it's like, I mean, how far can that go? I don't know. I understand that it's a difficult line to walk. You're saying let's move on from this topic. We will. We're going to move on from it, but something tells me this topic isn't going to go away anytime soon. What's the cross section of Japanese historians and coders? I don't know. Companies need to start hiring based on qualifications instead of trying to tick certain checkboxes. There's nothing wrong with having diversity, but you have to hire people who are actually qualified. Yeah. And you know, I want to put this out here as well. I think where there is some a problem, I think, that we're seeing across the industry, and I think it is a problem that does need to be highlighted, because there is some, like, you could clearly see some of this happening. I don't know that I'm so worried about the diversification, right? Because it's like, I think that it's very obvious that there are so many people involved in the gaming industry now that I don't think it's that hard. Maybe I'm wrong. I say this from an ignorant point of view in the sense that I don't have firsthand experience, but from what I can tell, there's so many people involved in the gaming industry and so many developers now that I don't think it's necessarily hard to form, like, I don't think you have to go out of your way to form a diverse group of developers. I think that the industry itself is just that diverse, you know? I could be wrong about that, but that's my general sense that I get with how big the industry has become. What I'm more concerned about, more so than are we hiring the right people that are qualified, is this weird situation seems to be arising in certain areas of the gaming industry or within certain studios. Maybe it's the studio culture where, like, politics are becoming more of an issue, where if you think about it, what is the concern? I'm trying to talk about the more rational people. What is the concern that rational people have about Ghost of Yotei? It's not that she's a female. It's not that it's a female lead. The concern that people have is, are we going to play this game and basically, as we're playing through it, it becomes like essentially a commentary on, like, feminism and identity politics and whatnot? Is that going to be part of this game? And that, to me, is like, yeah, I don't. I think that is a valid concern, because that, to me, should not be part of this game, because it just doesn't really make any sense. I mean, if you get a really badass female character that's slicing people up and beating the shit out of people and is very skilled, but she's a well-written character with a well-written story, you could argue, I mean, somebody might say, well, that's feminism. It's like, I mean, maybe, but no one's really looking at it that way. And that's effective. That's why when we look at strong female characters that we've seen in the past, people talk about, like, Lara Croft and whatnot, like, you know, they were not, at least it doesn't seem to me, it's not in your face. Like, they don't have it written across their head, like, I'm a strong female lead. No, like, they were just done they were done naturally and organically and in a nuanced way, and people gravitated towards that. They're like, yeah, this is good. And I've always argued for that. That's why I'm saying, like, the concern is that that's not what we're going to get. The concern, and I think it's a valid concern, the concern is that you're going to get, again, this is why people are paying so much attention to the fact that this woman that they hired is a vocal political activist on Twitter. They're concerned that the person who's going to write this character and write these lines and write these interactions and write this dialogue is going to be a political activist that just can't, like, they're going to start writing it as if they're writing tweets. And that, I think, is a valid concern, because that's where you are crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed, and you are now ruining your product because of it. Even if you have a message you want to deliver, even if there's something you want to say, that's fine. Everybody has something they want to say. Everybody has a message they want to deliver, but you got to be able to understand that there's two ways you can deliver that message. The first way is you can do it subtly and handle it with care and handle it with respect, and most people won't even fully realize the message you just delivered. And in the future, or not even in the future, but once it's delivered, people will start dissecting and they'll be like, oh, wow, this is more layered than I originally thought. You know, like, kind of realizing there's layers to what is being done here, that if you want to dissect it and you want to dig a little bit deeper, it's like, oh, this is really well crafted, you know, versus, but what if I just scream it in your face? What if I just shove it right in your face in big, bold letters? Well, that just comes off antagonistic. That just comes off like you're childish and antagonistic, and you just want to argue with people. And it's your way or the highway. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that, because that's not, there's no depth. There's nothing to it. So, at the end of the day, there are only so many things that we can control. And what I'm trying to do is maintain the best balance that I can in trying to evaluate each product for what it is as it comes our way. So I see something like Ghost of Yotei. I like what I see. I have no problem with what I see. The only time a problem arises, or potential thought of a problem, is when I see what other people have to say, or the fact that people are throwing this actress's tweets in my face, like I give a shit about what this woman's tweeting about. I don't follow the dude. I never followed the guy who played Jin. I don't know anything about that man. I don't know what his political beliefs are. I don't know what he's tweeted. I've never seen anything. And the way I see it is I'm better for it, because it doesn't matter. The character, he is not literally Jin Sakai. You know what I mean? Jin Sakai is a fictional character. Just like this Atsu character is a fictional character. So I'm just going to continue to remain balanced. And if I see something, when the time comes, when we see more of the game, if there's something that is conveyed to me that rubs me the wrong way genuinely, because it's like, well, that doesn't seem quite right. I'm picking up on a certain vibe here. And sometimes I'm right about that vibe, sometimes I'm wrong. Then we'll talk about it. Let's see. I apologize. I forgot I had a couple more. Helldive says, did anyone play Infamous First Light? This is nothing new from Sucker Punch. They make what they want. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Infamous First Light. I did forget about that. That was like a spinoff, right? Where you played as I forget her name. The girl with the pink hair. She had like the neon ability or whatever. Fetch, yeah. Waylark is saying, so you want some cookie cutter revenge story? I mean, maybe I am a sucker for, more traditional, simple plot lines, but I don't want to say cookie cutter. I would like there to be a twist or two. I'll be honest. I always appreciate a good twist, but I'm just saying if that's the general theme, vengeance, and she's going after the people that wronged her. I've always been drawn to those types of stories. But, I don't know that I would necessarily say I want it to be cookie cutter. Pushing Polygon says, MBG, instead of worrying about it, let's just give them enough rope. If it succeeds and that's that, then they will lose my next buy. Oh, you're saying if it succeeds and it ends up being that, then they will lose my next buy. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, pushing Polygons. And I'm in agreement. It's easy for me to just sit here and go on and on about it because I'm on stream and I'm just, once I get going, I get going. I don't shut up about it. But at the end of the day, that's really what it boils down to, man, is I am a believer that people will, the market will speak, If it is true that people are genuinely fed up with some of the stuff that they've been seeing in terms of where the game industry is headed, then the more games we get that do that stuff, they're going to do worse and worse and struggle. And regardless of what anybody believes, at the end of the day, these companies are only about one thing, and that is, are you making money or not? Are you making money or losing money? And this is why I said, again, I do apologize because I know how much of a broken record I sound like, but this is why I said I hope Sony received the right message. I hope Sony received the right message when it comes to why Concord flopped, because it's not just as simple as it was a bad game. It runs deeper than that. There's multiple reasons why Concord failed and why nobody wanted it and why it was the biggest flop ever. And it's not just because it was woke. It's not just because it was a generic game. It was all of these things combined. And, I just hope that these companies can start to just kind of quickly get through the bullshit and again, just kind of understand, listen, people just want good products, man. That's all. They just want good products. They want genuine products. They don't want to be preached to. They don't want to feel like people's opinions are being forced on them. They just want good products that are well crafted and handled with care and made out of passion. That's what they want. And the more people that get involved that are not driven by that, the more people that get involved in this industry that are not driven by that, but are constantly being influenced by something else, they're going to continue to struggle in this industry because the market will continue to communicate that at the end of the day. Regardless of what any YouTube videos say, regardless of what I say, regardless of all the extra noise, the market will continue to dictate that we just want fun games, man. We want fun games, good, well-made games that are made out of passion. And all, some of the things that people complain about, can that be part of it? Yes. If it's handled correctly. Yes. The saying always comes to mind, man. The saying always rings true. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Because I believe, and maybe I'm a bit naive, but I believe that most people are more accepting than we realize. I think people are accepting. I think most people are just inherently good in that they're not trying to be shitty to others. They're not trying to shut other people down. Are there those bad people that do want to do that and that is their agenda? Absolutely. But I think most people are not like that. And I think most people are very willing to actually hear what somebody has to say, or at least give them a chance to, what do you have to say? You know, I'm willing to hear you out. But that's the problem today, is it the reason why so many people are becoming unwilling to listen and unwilling to hear anymore is because there are too many people that are busy trying to scream. They're trying to yell at you. They're trying to shove it down your throat. And people are not going to respond kindly to that. You know, they're not going to respond kindly to that. Again, I don't see that with Ghost of Yotei as the product for what it is so far. And I suspect we won't. At least I hope we won't. Cypherpunk. Let me see here. Cypherpunk says it will 100% focus on how it is for a female and how they get treated during that time. Just depends on how far or hard they go in that direction. And I think that's fine. Again, it depends on how far they take it. You know? Like, if the idea is it's the 1600s and females were treated somewhat unfairly, okay. That's fine. But if it's like that's the only, like if they just keep like every encounter and everything, like the entire game is just beating you over the head with, don't you understand females are treated unfairly? Like that would ruin it, because it's like, well, there should be much more to it than that. So I agree with you, Cypherpunk. It depends on how they handle it. Again, that is a real thing that shouldn't be ignored. And it would actually make sense to show up here, but it needs to be handled with care and treated with respect. And that, to me, does not come in the form of, you know, an activist writing a story where it's like, this character is going to shame everybody and teach everybody a lesson, you know, at every turn. It's like, okay, that's not interesting. Perfect Image, you're saying, is it sexism or Catholicism? Just want to play good games. Perfect Image out here just getting crazy with it, being like, yo, is that sexism or Catholicism, bro? I'm like, Catholicism? Oh, now you're trying to bring religion into it? All right, we're done here, folks. We're moving on. Oh, you know what? I apologize. In all of my talking here, I have missed a couple of direct donations from Moonshot. I apologize, Moonshot. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. You're saying Sony certainly has an agenda, and in turn, so do their studios. Ghost 2 is now getting the heat because of what has come before it, unfortunately. Which sucks, because it's something so mild as a female lead. Not siding with the weirdos on either side, but yeah, there was a lead up, and now everyone is boiled. And that's fair. Moonshot, that's totally fair. And I am in agreement in that. I guess in a way, in reading your message, it makes me realize that maybe it's not my place. Truthfully, as I spit everywhere. Damn it. Maybe it's not my place to tell people to calm down or to not jump to conclusions. I mean, I'm still going to want to say that because I think that's the best way to go about it. But you're right, man. This could be the market speaking. This could be the market basically just simply saying, like, Sony, we feel like you crossed the line with something like Concord or whatever, and some of the stuff you've done, and now we're seeing what you're doing in bad faith, and I get that. It makes me feel sorry for Sucker Punch, where it's like, I mean, has anybody, you know, for the people who are feeling that way, it's like just consider for a moment. Just consider for a moment that this is a separate studio, a separate game, a separate project, and a separate team. Just consider that when this game comes out, it might not be any of the things that some people are suspecting it will be. and it might just be really good. And I get it. Like, trust me, I get that people are tired of feeling burned, and I don't want to get burned either. Like, dude, trust me. Trust me. Know that there's like a monster lurking underneath here. Not a monster, but like there is a level of unhinged frustration and anger boiling under the surface that it's like, if they take it that far where it's like even Ghost now, like even Sucker Punch. That's true, Adama. You're saying even if we were playing as Jin, there would still be some reason to be cautious based on recent events. Yeah. And maybe that's where the blinders, maybe for me, that's where the blinders come up a little bit, where it's like, I'm missing that point that like, not everybody is going to see it. Not everybody's going to be as forgiving necessarily, or not everybody's going to approach it with such good faith. But I just want to try to encourage people that do your best, because I feel like if you just isolate Sucker Punch and you look at what they've done, they deserve a little bit of credit, I think. They deserve a little bit of runway to work with. Kind of funny seeing PC players eventually modding Jin back in when it gets ported. Damn. You're absolutely right. That's pretty funny. No, they're going to mod CJ first, bro. Yeah, the first character mod is going to be CJ. Damn, man, I basically spent the whole stream talking about this one topic. I didn't mean to do that. More like Thomas the Tank. Shrek, yeah, true. I think I might have to save some of these topics for tomorrow. Can we get on with the next topic? It's getting boring. Steven says, let's wait and see. Let's stop speculating. Yeah. I will say I need to apologize to Gaming Survivor, bro. I don't know if he's here, but the reason why I say this is because he left me a comment on yesterday's stream, and it wasn't a rude comment. He was, he was being polite about it, but he was just like, man, like, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he's like, man, it just seems like sometimes these more politically driven topics, where the topics surrounding the stuff, it gets to be a bit much, and it's a bit draining. And I did, the reason why I want to apologize is because I did respond to him, and I said, yeah, I agree. It does get a bit much, and I won't lie, like, it is very draining, and it's tiresome, and I guess sometimes I just can't help but get wrapped up in it, because I don't know, it happens sometimes. Maybe it's my greatest weakness here, but I would like to just, the thing that bothers me the most about it is it drains me of my any positive feelings I have. It always feels like it's something that is so serious all the time. And in the same way that I say, I just want to get back to playing and enjoying really great video games, I want to get back to, talking about them more often, Titus just saying it pulls us in, MBG. It's hard. I know it is. It's like a black hole sometimes. It's draining because people are egging you into talking about it for hours sometimes, and it's ruining your mood towards things. Yeah, for sure. I do feel bad about that, because that's like, it's interesting to me how, even though I've been streaming for so long, I have so much experience streaming now, but I still find that, man, it's just so easy for it to get away from you. You know, it's so easy for it to just escape you. And I think for all the years I've been streaming, this is probably my greatest weakness. Where you know, this is a problem it goes all the way back to the Press X podcast days. I'm sure you guys remember, where I'd be like, all right, I got a whole host of topics we're going to discuss today over the next 3 or 4 hours. And then it's like, I get so wrapped up in my own head and thoughts that it's like 3 hours went by. It's like, bro, did you get to the second topic yet? It's like, no. Oh. And maybe it wouldn't be so bad if it was planned out. Like, for example, if I just titled this stream, we're now going to talk about Ghost of Yotei and a new rumor, like, you know, new ridiculous rumor or whatever about Ghost of Yotei, and that's all that the stream said, I think that would be fine because people know that's what they're going into, you know? Saying it's not political to call out bad business practices. Yeah. And that's, I want to say too, like, it's not entirely my fault. I don't want to gaslight myself. It's not entirely my fault. You know, there's a reason why these topics are being brought up. There's a reason why people are talking about them, and why they're, especially when we talk about PlayStation, there is a reason. Yeah, it is a prominent issue right now, and it does feel damn near unavoidable. But at the end of the day, I guess all that I'm really left to do is the same thing that you guys are left to do. And it's like, we have to make our own decisions. And my hope is that when it comes specifically to Ghost of Yotei, my hope is that as we see more of it, it becomes clear to people that, oh, actually, this does look pretty good. And maybe some of my assumptions were wrong. I gotta let Lay in. Silent Hill 2 reviews are out. Oh wait, did they just come out now? Are you sure? I'm not seeing anything. Let me check. No, I'm not seeing anything yet. That's weird. It says for Silent Hill 2 to be determined based on 13 critic reviews. What? Yeah, I don't think the reviews are actually out yet. Only Famitsu. Okay. You're saying Famitsu put out their review. Why are they the only ones that have the review out though? That's kind of weird. Leaked reviews from people who have it early. Well, I'm excited for Silent Hill 2 remake. Did I get my stand and disk drive yet? Lone Wolf Gamer, I did. Can you? I don't know if you can see it behind me. I think you can. I got the stand below it, tapping it. It's sitting on top of the disk drive. So I'm ready. I just need the PS5 Pro now. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. It feels so close, but so far at the same time, you know? Like, it's only October 2nd. The PS5 Pro isn't coming out till November 7th. But it'll be here before I know it, you know? Titus just saying, damn, that's a nice chair, man. Thanks. Yeah, I just recently got it. If you're a channel member, go check out my my recent members lounge. You can watch me assemble it. But it is an extremely comfortable chair. I've been really enjoying it. You had to cancel your Silent Hill 2 remake pre-order so you can get the disc drive for the Pro? Damn. Decisions, right? Oh yeah, that's true. Dead Space is out now on PS Plus. Yeah, I would recommend giving it a shot. Dead Space remake was really good. Like really, really good. It's a good month too. It's a good month for them to release. Yeah, you mind opening the windows? That's racist. No, you're not. I actually didn't get the platinum for Dead Space. No, I just beat it and moved on. When I think there was a trophy for beating out like the hardest difficulty or whatever, and it was like ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Indeed, I do. Sorry. See, this is what I mean, dude. Like, what are these? Who are these people? Are you guys actually subscribed to the channel? Well, you have to be, I guess. But I see like 5280 says boycott Yotei. And then Chili Tunes. Chill Tune says Ghost of Broke Tay if it follows Outlaws, Concord, and Skull and Bones. Like, guys, come on, man. Stop triggering me. They're trying to flatten your tires, bro. Yeah, I think that second one was a joke. The first one seemed serious, though. Okay, you're saying SiFu was out on Game Pass. Looking forward to playing it. Dude, SiFu was an awesome game. SiFu was a great game. That's like one of my favorite games ever. Truthfully. I did Platinum SiFu. That was a hard one to Platinum. But I highly recommend it. I hope you enjoy it, man. Such a good game. Okay, Chill Tune says it was definitely a joke. That's fine. You know, maybe it's a reflection of me. I get too easily triggered, you know? Maybe that's my problem. I take the bait too easily. I take the damn bait too easily. In a way, maybe you guys are teaching me. Help me be better. You would like SiFu combat in a more linear game with a story? That would be great. I will say, man, having combat like what you like hand to hand combat like what you got in SiFu, but like you're saying, kind of having a more fleshed out linear game with more of a story, that would be a winning combo right there. I wonder what I really like the art style of SiFu. I almost wonder like what would a really big AAA, highly polished, like photorealistic version of that, like with that exact same type of combat. How would that look? They just make a Bruce Lee game. Pushing polygons. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Yeah, that's what happens to me too. And I really I got to get better at it, man. I got to get better at it. And it's not just with video games either. It's just like generally speaking, just getting Too absorbed. Not with that license, bro. Robin says he gave up easily on SiFu, should go back to it at some point. Yeah, I would recommend going back to it if you're up to it. I really got hung up on the ending of it, like when you had to fight the final boss and you had to do something to platinum it. There was like a third phase or something. I really struggled with it, but I stuck with it. There's already a Bruce Lee game on the OG Xbox. Terrible game. Oh, that's because it's on Xbox. I actually didn't know that, though. That's like news to me. Shadow Link. I'm actually I'm gonna save the topic for tomorrow. I expended too much energy, and this, I know that some of you might be disappointed to hear that I'm gonna save the second topic. Xbox wants to know why devs prefer PS5. I'm gonna save it for tomorrow because if I talk about it now, you're not gonna get the best version of that topic discussion that you could get. I expended way too much energy only talking about Ghost of Yotei, and that's why I'm just going to keep it pretty chill now and just chat with you guys for a little bit before ending the stream, because I want to make sure that with these other topics, I want to come in fresh, you know? If I try to force it now, I'm going to only talk about it for like 5 or 10 minutes and just like blah, you know? And we might have some other, I mean, depending on what comes out between today and tomorrow, we could have some other topics as well. Enrico says, we need to keep it real. I just love gaming too much to sit back and watch all my favorite games get censored, or Dead Space was and is one of my favorite games, seriously. Yeah, no, I get it. We need to, we need to fight for the things we care about, and we need to do our best to try to preserve them, for sure. But that's why I say I think it's a balance. We have to always fight for the things that we care about and that we hold sacred, if you will. But I think there's also something to be said for keeping an open mind, and sometimes maybe change isn't such a bad thing. You know? Got to find that balance. What was the UE5 demo? So that I will read about, because it's not like anything huge, but it kind of surprised me because PlayStation posted about it. Sony and Epic have been close partners for a long time, with the former investing a considerable amount of money into the latter. It's little surprise then to see Unreal Engine 5's latest tech demonstration presented running on a PS5, and it looks stunning. As part of Epic's Unreal Fest presentation, it highlights an experimental new feature on Unreal 5.5 named Mega Lights. In short, the tech allows for thousands of light sources to cast realistic light and shadow scene environments in real time without compromising performance. You can watch the demo. There's a video of it out there, but it says the character walks through various realistically lit environments. This includes a large space filled with neon signs, decorative lights, flying drones, and more. The overall effects look fantastic, and the fact it's all running live on a PS5 means it's not exclusive to high-end PCs. This is tech we could see in Unreal Engine console games over the coming years. No mention is made of the PS5 Pro here, suggesting this is just running on a standard PS5. Sony seems to be pretty proud of it, as it shared the Mega Light segment on its PlayStation socials. So let me see if we can bring it up real quick and check it out. I got a couple of super chats here. Jackson Birch, thank you for the super chat, buddy. You're saying, hey, MBG, could you react to that Endymion video on stream? I watched the video, and he does go into detail on things. It's similar to the Concord situation, where he won't out his sources. So I did actually react to it. Unless, my only question is, did I end it too soon? Let me see really quick. I think I went through all of it.
Yotei was not the original vision, and key talent has left Sucker Punch, just like it happened with Rocksteady when Suicide Squad was being made as well. I was also told do not expect Yotei in 2025 at all. Apparently the game's nowhere near being done, but it's a very slim chance at best that this game actually releases in 2025. It could very easily fall into 2026, but if you're getting your hopes up for it coming out next year, probably don't do that. Every source that I spoke to say that they fully expect a delay at some point to be announced. Originally, apparently they wanted this Tsushima sequel to drop close to John Wick's director's vision of the movie to capitalize on sales. But these changes from Tsushima 2 to Yotei happened apparently within the last year, so the entire vision of the project has been changed. The era of placing the game 300 years into the future from Tsushima 1's story was decided because it would be more believable in Sucker Punch's internal talks for the game to star a woman at that point instead. Especially considering Atsu would then have access to things like firearms to fight back against enemies as well. As I was also told further, Ghost of Tsushima 2 was described as Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, but way better in every single way. The game was supposed to move Jin Sakai further into the Japanese mainland to fight the Mongols. As I was told, Tsushima 2 was meant to be about Jin creating his own Brotherhood of Ghosts, a lot like Ezio does with the Brotherhood of Assassins as well in that game too. The idea was that Jin knew he couldn't face the Mongols alone and therefore would train eager and talented young Japanese into capable warriors that could help him strike in multiple areas at once, which would then give credence to the idea that the ghost as in Jin and the legend were indeed everywhere at once around Japan, which would obviously scare the Mongols and then make the urban legend even more terrifying to them. There was meant to be huge cinematic battles where Jin and his ghosts would ride and face off against the Mongols as well. Yotei is also allegedly being developed as a cross-gen game for PS5 and PS4 because Sucker Punch and Sony are worried that the game won't sell as well if it isn't available to a larger install base. So
Bro. I will say that while I don't believe it, I'll be honest, man, I don't think any of this is true. But I will say that idea, like that pitch for that's the sequel with Jin, that does sound pretty cool. Like that would have been a cool direction to go in, but I don't it seems let me just finish hearing it out and see what else has to be said before I say any more. Because I'll be honest, guys, I didn't realize I didn't finish listening to the video. I apologize for that as well. I just cut it off halfway through.
for you out there who saw the Yotei trailer and went, this looks exactly the same graphically as Tsushima, which wasn't an ugly game, mind you, it's beautiful even to this day, well, now you have your answer. Although, as I'm told, Yotei may be smaller than the original Tsushima because of the development problems behind the scene, and the fact that they sidelined Jin Sakai for this new Atsu hero instead. This led to a lot of asset flips and the story changing, but the core idea of Jin being hunted by Ronin was kept, but of course, he was replaced by Atsu instead. I was also told by another source that the ending of Yotei will piss people off, however, they couldn't reveal more of that yet. I wasn't given specifics on what this could mean, however, I don't know how Yotei's ending could piss people off. The only conclusion I could make in my own head about this was that Yotei's story will feature moments where you do play as Jin, although in flashbacks. And I would wager if they mean the ending will piss people off, I would assume, and I could be wrong, but let me cook here, but imagine throughout the story you play some parts as Jin whenever his legend is being brought up by the people of Yotei. This way, Sucker Punch can reuse whatever missions they cancelled as content within the game to satiate the Tsushima fans. If I had to guess why the ending would piss anyone off, my shot in the dark here is that we learned that Jin Sakai is not successful in the battle against the Mongols.
Okay, wait. So that would be bad, though? Like, I'm just having trouble following this because it's like what he just said about the idea of like you will be able to play sections like in the past as Jin. Wouldn't that make people happy? Like, wouldn't people be like, "Oh my god, that's fucking awesome"? But like, I guess the idea is like the ending will piss you off because he's unsuccessful. But it's like, bro, I went into this game assuming Jin was dead anyway, man. Like, if it just turns out Jin, I'm not saying, I know I'm entertaining this too much, but just, you know, going with it here. It's like, if Jin died, still, you know, trying to fend off the bigger Mongol invasion, that'd be a pretty, I mean, that would be a sick way to go out, you know? Like, he did everything he could. He fended off the first invasion, but maybe the second one was just too overwhelming. I don't know. I'm just saying, man, like, I'm having trouble following this stuff because it's like one moment we're angry and pissed off because we can't play as Jin, but then the really damning rumor claims that actually there's going to be sections where you play as Jin, but it's going to piss people off. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's happening, man. Jin Sockeye. Jin Sockeye. Jin Sucky. All right, I should stop.
And that he likely dies during some pivotal moments during the invasion in order to either save someone or his clan by giving his life, and would likely end his legend within Yotei while still being able to play as Atsu, because you would learn that Jin Sakai ultimately failed, but his legacy would live on with his remaining ghost that he fostered, and they would in turn eventually win the war and stave off the Mongol invasion. That's the only way I could imagine the ending pissing people off, but I assume that they will confirm that Jin died before he could actualize his efforts, which would then close the book on his story so that fans don't demand more content from him. And this then allows Atsu to live on, and then it answers that lingering question. But like I said, Asian men are now being viewed as disposable when it comes to representation by the West, the same way that white men are too, so none of this would really surprise me really. I was also told that people within Sony are leaking information about all sorts of games and developments to people on the outside, hence how I heard about this from my sources. Apparently, a lot of questions are being asked internally about things like Ghost of Yotei especially. Many are feeling blindsided by its announcement, and like I said, since allegedly Yotei was changed from Tsushima 2 to what it is now within the last year, a lot of the PR people and marketing developments were not made aware in time about Ghost 2 suddenly pivoting to a new main character with a sudden 300 year time jump or anything like that. So a lot of people are confused and scrambling for answers right now, wondering why they were left in the dark about this. Maybe because Sucker Punch knew if others were made aware, they would push against it, but like I was told, many of the key talent has either left Sucker Punch entirely, or they are not actively working on Yotei. As I was also told, if Yotei's reception does not improve, this could scale the game back in terms of scope and resources. If Sony starts to notice the public opinion on this game is not changing for the better, they'll opt for a smaller overall content package. So I wouldn't be surprised if Yotei releases at $60 Canadian or $50 American, instead of the usual premium price point of $70 American as it is right now, or $80-$90 for Canadians. Or maybe they just don't care. And
okay, so see that right there, that's another reason, like, dude, Sony's, no, that's not how Sony operates. You're not just going to see Sony come out and be like, well, people might not like it as much, so we're just going to charge $50. Yeah, no. Doesn't matter. This game could be a fucking disaster in the making. I'm not saying it is, but it could be. They're charging $70 for that disaster. You will pay $70 even if this thing is a disaster. But there's just so much here that doesn't. The idea of like developers internally at Sony are now leaking stuff out. I mean, I'll be honest, like that sounds kind of believable, just because it's like, I mean, we have been seeing some of that happen, but. This is about to wrap up, by the way. I'm just going to let him say the last part here, and then I'll give my final thoughts on it. And I'll read the super chats.
They'll just release it at full price anyways, and they'll just hope that the name alone will still sell it regardless. I am told that Sony is developing future Ghost titles, but I wasn't given specifics on where they would be set. So if I guess you think of some setting that would be dope for one of these games, let me know in the comments. And I was also told that the voice actor for Atsu in Ghost of Yotei is a nightmare to work with, and even other woke people think that she's absolutely crazy. But again, this is what I'm being told. I don't want to accuse the voice actor too much because I can't verify this 100%, but yeah, from what I'm being told, they are an insane woke activist that makes other insane woke activists go, damn, that chick is one insane woke activist, man. They could be a very nice person, but that's not what I'm hearing. If I hear more, I'll let you know. None of this is sadly surprising since Cabrutus Rambo posted a bit back how Sony is looking to dive more into DEI nonsense in the future. And I mean, I did get attacked a lot for my comments on Ghost of Yotei as well as other games, but as time has gone on, it just seems that more people are turning to my side on these things. And look, it's okay if I get attacked, I'll keep speaking the truth because that matters more than anything else. Do I think Sony will continue to push these concepts in the future? For the short term, yes. But I think if people vote with their wallets, it'll be largely abandoned, hopefully. The reception to Ghost of Yotei, it has been nothing short of mixed. And the fact I reported before that Yasuke was inspired by Black Lives Matter is the cherry on top of the crap pie, and it's crazy that that got confirmed by not one, but multiple sources to me. You could have had Taka Yamauchi, dear viewer, saving Japan from the Sword of Eden, but these studios are apparently very incompetent, full of diversity hires that are spending absurd amounts of money on contractors to actually make things work, which are largely white men in these roles. Am I saying white men are better at developing games? Not really, but it's weird that this is the narrative that I keep hearing from literally all of my sources. So we might be seeing a Suicide Squad Rocksteady situation with Sucker Punch and Yotei. As for Shadows, it's also apparently a buggy mess behind the scenes too. That's all.
Man, I'm going to be honest. Look. Let me just process everything I just heard, okay? All right, so here's what I'll say. First, I don't believe this. Okay? I don't believe it. A lot of it sounds, I'll be honest, it sounds like a random person who has a problem with this game and decided to make up some kind of backstory that sounds very pleasing to all the people, specifically to all the people who are not happy with what they're seeing here for one reason or another. I find it interesting that almost all of the things he's saying about the game, almost all of the things that his source is telling him about the game, it almost sounds like it's speaking directly to the audience and being like, you guys were right. See, you were right. So that makes me a little bit skeptical. But there is another side to this that I will entertain for the sake of, I have no sources. I haven't talked to anybody. And everything that I've based my opinion, or not everything, but like when I first saw Ghost of Yotei, I was not displeased with what I saw. Is it a possibility that there is essentially a major issue behind the scenes with Sucker Punch? That the studio mismanaged the sequel and they decided to reboot it and go in a different direction, and now people are unhappy and it caused division within the studio? Listen, I'm just going to put this out here. I'm not going to say one way or the other, 100% definitely not, or 100% definitely yes. The reason why is because if there's something that I have learned is that these things they can and they do happen. And I want people to just keep that in mind. That's not me saying we should believe this. I don't believe it. But I do not want to pretend that we haven't witnessed complete disasters with beloved studios and that it's like totally out of the realm of possibility. These things do happen. But to me, it just seems like that is a level of incompetence and a level of failure that it would be difficult for me to believe, like, what? Like, how is this even possible? Herman is at the helm. Well, we will find out. I did notice in this video, he says that his sources claim that this game is nowhere near finished. Pay very close attention to that. Pay very close attention to that, because they gave a release year of 2025. And they didn't have to do that. They could have said 2026. They could have not given a year, you know? They're saying expect a delay. Again, these are all things that I'm not picking this up on this game, man. Yeah, like, he was saying that people were criticizing the graphics, and the reason being is because it's going to be a cross-gen game. The graphics looked pretty good to me. They did look better than Ghost of Tsushima. I don't know why people were acting like they didn't look better than Ghost of Tsushima. They definitely did. He's also saying that a lot of Sony PR were blindsided or something by the reveal. Like, they didn't know about this. That just sounds like, how? How would that even be possible? They barely did any PR for this. There was a trailer. It was in the state of play. There was a trailer. There was a blog post, and there was like 1 or 2 interviews with the directors. That's it. Like, and they even said that they took trips to Japan for inspiration and stuff. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say this, okay? On top of me saying that I don't believe this rumor at all, I just don't. I don't believe anything that was said here. And I think that, yeah, see, MRPD, you're saying Tom Henderson replied to someone about Sony not knowing the character of the game. He laughed it off, saying they have multiple internal presentations every year. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, this stuff can be made in a vacuum, as we've seen with Concord. But to think that anybody at Sony who was involved with the making of this game and like seeing it come to market doesn't know what's going on with it is just nonsense. But I will say this. I think what we can all agree on is that if this rumor were to be true, which I don't believe it is, but if it were to be true, yeah, we would have to destroy them. Because that sounds like that. I mean, I'll be honest, man, the way he's describing it, the way he's describing the development pipeline of Ghost of Yotei, it sounds like he's describing like something relatively similar to Concord. And that's like, yeah, I don't think so. But obviously, if any of this turns out to be true, like if Sony comes out and they're like Capono, you're saying if it's on PS4, will you call Sony out? Hell yeah, I will. Oh, hell yeah. If Sony comes out here and says, we're releasing this on PS4, I'm going to say, you're out of your fucking minds. And I will be pissed because that's not what we should be seeing in 2025. But another reason why I don't believe this is they said they're afraid it's not going to sell well enough. Right? I mean, well, you know, Spider-Man 2 was PS5 only. I mean, look, again, I don't believe it, and we will see what happens. But if this were to be true, then at that point, it's like Herman's got to be fired. Yeah. Like if by some chance, by some slim chance, it's like, yeah, actually it turns out this guy's source was 100% legitimate and this is all actually true, then Herman Hulst needs to be fired immediately. For sure. Like, for sure. Like, you're gone tomorrow. And the fact that Concord did happen, you know, it's hard for me to go 100% no way because it's, again, Concord proves that shit can happen, bro. But I just, again, that's where it's like, how could if something like this were to happen, how could the people at Sucker Punch, like, how could they let that happen? Like, it's right there, bro. But I'm not seeing any of that right now, so we'll see what happens. I guess we'll just leave it be for now, We'll see when they want to show it again. I got a couple of super chats here. Jackson Birch says, oh, that's the one I read. We have Joshua Reese. He says, how's Black Myth Wukong going, MBG? Last boss was hard. I actually dropped the game for now. I basically left off somewhere at chapter 2, and I haven't picked it up. I think I'll get back to it at some point, but for now, I've just kind of, I just put it down for now. Cypherpunk says, you see the Switch apparently has more and better video games than any other console in history from a new report. Also, has more games than the PS4 and PS5 put together. It has more 90-plus Metacritic games. No, I actually didn't see this, Cypherpunk. I'm not surprised, though. The Switch has proven to be a very dominant console, man. For sure. That's why I'm very interested to see what happens with the Switch 2, because if the Switch 2 can be just as dominant, that's going to be a hell of a run for Nintendo. We will see, man. Especially if Sony and Microsoft are planning to do their own handhelds. Interesting times ahead. I'll have to look into that report, though. Maybe I'll check it out tomorrow. And Jackson Birch with another super chat says, I can believe the part about changing the story since it happened in games like Destiny 1, but I don't know if they would have anything to show this soon if they made such significant changes. Yeah, that's something that I do want to highlight as well, Jackson, and I think that's a good call out there, is that if we do analyze that trailer, they weren't just showing like CGI pre-rendered cutscenes. They weren't showing just like concept art, it wasn't just like a splash screen. They showed like a lot of different scenes from the game. It was a 3-minute trailer. And it's true that you don't really get that type of stuff. You don't get a 3-minute trailer showing all those different environments, all those different parts of the game, if you just completely shifted direction a year ago. A trailer like that, a 3-minute trailer that shows that much, you usually get when the game is relatively close to being finished. And that's another thing that I think is just kind of obviously in our faces, that if you use your eyes and you just analyze what you're seeing and then you line it up with what's being said, it just seems like there's too much of a disconnect there. That's a good call out, Jackson. And Waylark says executives/shareholders would want crossplay, be guaranteed sales compared to maybe sales, as you'd be relying on everyone on PS4 to buy a PS5. And that's the part that scares me a little bit, because like, yeah, I mean, the only thing here that I will say, like, I could see Sony doing it, I think it would be nuts, only because it signifies a very significant shift in PlayStation's overall strategy. But if they were to come out and be like, this is going to be on PS4, that is such a that's a paradigm shift right there. Like this is not a God of War Ragnarok. This is not a a Horizon Forbidden West or Miles Morales. This is a, if it comes out in late 2025, that's over 5 years. That's 5 years since the PS5 launched. If they were willing to release it on PS4, that would signal a complete strategy shift from Sony, to a point where, at that point, when the PlayStation 6 comes out, you can expect that there will still be games releasing on PS4 from Sony, where it's PS4, PS5, PS6. And that would be, I would have to see that to believe it, because, again, I do not believe that that's what they're going to do. I think the idea, because you're right, they do want guaranteed sales, but I also think that a game like Ghost of Yotei, that's a game that's going to be positioned as a system seller. Like, that's the type of game where it's like, We want to leverage this to convince you to come over the PS5. But again, the way this rumor talks about it, it makes it seem like Sony does not have confidence in this game. It makes it seem like Sony is worried about this game not doing well. And I don't know. Maybe there's again, if I'm just playing devil's advocate here, it's like maybe there is a chance this game doesn't do as well as Ghost of Tsushima. Maybe it does underwhelm people. You know, maybe it's just not received as well for whatever reason. Not because it's a bad game, but just because it's just not holding as much water, I guess, as they thought it would. And if that is a thing that's becoming a common theme, where it's like The Last of Us Part 2 did not sell as well as The Last of Us 1. Horizon Forbidden West did not sell as well as Horizon Zero Dawn. And then next up you have Ghost of Yotei did not sell as well as Ghost of Tsushima. I don't know if Spider-Man 2 sold as well as Spider-Man 1. I think it did. I think that's like maybe the only game that sold just as good, or maybe even a little bit better, if I'm not mistaken. But if that's, I think God of War Ragnarok as well. I think Ragnarok sold better than the first, than God of War 2018. But it's like if Sony does start to see these trends where it's like, guys, our sequels are not doing as well. Like, we're not seeing growth. Yeah, stuff like that, I could encourage them to maybe think, all right, maybe we gotta, we gotta start I don't know that going backwards is the I don't think going backwards is the solution. Like, we just need to backport these games to get more sales or get them over to PC more quickly. You could do that. I will say, like, if Sony starts to see a trend that all of your sequels are not selling as well as the first games, well, what does that tell you? Like, our franchises are not growing the way we thought they would. Well, what does that tell you? If that were to happen, and that is the case, and that's what the numbers tell you, then you need to make new franchises. You need to reevaluate the decisions that your development teams are making. I mean, I tried to point out to people that, like, The Last of Us Part 2 did not sell as well as the first game. And I understand that people blame the leaks, and maybe that did affect it, right? Like, the leaks are why. But I also made the argument that I think once people, like, even if the game didn't leak, once people realize, like, oh, this is what they did, I think it would have turned some people off. Like, there would have been an explosion no matter what. And that explosion would have dissuaded some people from buying the game. And I don't know. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. It's like, if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. And if that leads to less sales, then so be it. That leads to less sales. But it's not like it sold poorly. I want to make that clear as well. The Last of Us Part 2 did sell a shit ton. And, Horizon Forbidden West still sold a shit ton. But it all has to be viewed within the lens of what does Sony really want to achieve? What is their long-term goal here with these games and these franchises and their studios? You ever had a game where you just want more of that game, not for them to really add to it? Yeah. I've been there. A sequel selling less is pretty normal. Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like that's not also... you're right, that is relatively common. A lot of times the sequels just simply don't have the same type of pop. But Sony wants to turn these properties into mega hits that just constantly sell better and better and better. But we'll see what happens, man. It's a wild rumor. It doesn't sound very believable to me. And I'll say this. This is the last thing I'll say. This person claims that a bunch of different developers and people at Sony are starting to leak stuff out to give out information about what's going on at their studios. because apparently a lot of them are against some of these projects or whatever. If that's true, we're going to hear more. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't. If we do, I'll absolutely cover it. But if it's true, then we should start to see reliable sources come out and start to write up reports on this stuff. And if that happens, I will be the first one here to cover it, and we'll go over it all. But guys, I think this will be a good place to end the stream, because I wasn't trying to go over the 3-hour mark today. I'm trying really hard not to make my streams overly long too frequently. So I think I am going to end the stream here. Again, I do apologize that I wasn't able to get to all the topics, but we will come back tomorrow with another stream, and we will cover not only some of those topics that I wasn't able to get to, but probably new topics as well. But guys, before I head out, I have to give a massive shout out to the community here. We're sitting at 75 members. Steven Leon, I don't know if you're still here, man, but thank you for dropping a 50 bomb again earlier in the stream. That's incredible support, and it's very much appreciated, more than you know, man. And then we had other people kind of dropping some membership gifts as well. I also want to thank everybody who dropped any super chats. Super chats are just as helpful, and they go a long way in helping support the channel, as well as any direct donations we got to. All in all, I just want to thank you guys for your continued support. We have an amazing community, and I appreciate that you guys listen to all my unhinged rants and my breakdowns. So good stuff, guys. The only other thing I'm going to ask you to do before we head out here is hit that like button to help the stream. I want to give a shout out to Devil Shooter. Devil Shooter, thank you for doing the timestamps. If you guys see him in the comments, show him some love, give him some thanks. I know he really appreciates that, but that's pretty much going to do it for today's stream. I did release a video earlier today, a news video. If you haven't already, go check that out. And guys, that does it. Have a good rest of your day. I will catch you guys here, same time, same place tomorrow for another stream. So I'm looking forward to it. That's it. All right. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.